What up? We're live. Live and in effect. Two people in the stream, but we got one, two, three comments. And right off the bat, everybody wants to know what's going on with the car shopping. And no, now we got four people in the stream. Once again, everybody wants to know what's going on with the car. And I told you all, I'm a hard baller at the car, especially at a used car dealer. And so I did go. I went and looked at two. I drove two cars today, and I liked one of them. But right now, I'm still riding my bike. So I'll tell you the whole story because I'm funny. People think it's hilarious when they hear my stories about what I did. And so I did the walk away today. So first of all, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to do I'm going to rearrange my, while you're not looking, I'm going to rearrange my other screen so I can see everything I want to see. All right, now I can share my screen, and we're going here to entire screen. That's the one I want. Bam. All right. So I've been talking about going to look at a Subaru Forester 2006 with 168,000 miles on it, $44.95, and I knew that before I even left the house, I knew I could get this car out the door for $4,000 or less. Taxes, title, fees, whatever. I knew that I could do that. But I went and looked at this car, and one thing you got to take in mind when you see the pictures, I don't think they photoshopped anything, but you see things that you don't see in a picture, right? Little dings, little dents, things like that. Okay, no big deal. But I started going through the car, and I spend about a half an hour looking over a car before I take it on a drive. And so I'm noticing things like I get in the car and I'm like, oh, how do I open image in new tab? You can see it in the picture here. I'm like, oh, the seat lever is missing to recline the seat. It's just a metal stump hanging out. And so I'm just noticing things in the interior, but overall it was pretty good. They don't have any photos under the hood, and a lot of that's hit or miss with dealers. But so I get under, I look over the whole interior and everything, and I get under the car. Back, tires, probably needs a new set of tires. But the thing that got me was I'm under the car and I look up front. I'm in the back. I start in the back and work my way to the front, and I'm looking and I see drips. Now, the first drip that I saw was just water from the AC. Air conditioning unit will drain water. That's that's normal. I even stuck my hand in there. I didn't lick it, but I'm like, is this water? Yeah, bap. Okay. Then I saw a few drips under the engine bay. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Head gasket time. And so I really couldn't get a good look under the car, but I could see that there was a lot of like crud, oil. Like it just looked dirty under there. And I'm like, but I couldn't see like, where's it coming from? Is this buildup or is this something like wrong? So I'm like, all right, I just played it cool. We get in the car, we go on a test drive. Drive's okay. It drove fairly nice. Alignment was off, but it had good pickup. It was okay. We get back to the lot, and I'm like, okay, I park it in a different spot on purpose, facing the other direction, because I want it to sit there for 10 minutes while we talk. And then I want to go back and look under the car to see if like drip, if there's more oil drips down there. Because maybe it was a drip from another car, but I don't know. It seemed a little bit fresh. So I'm like, I finally start telling the sales dude, I'm like, well, I think you got a head gasket issue on that or something, because blah, blah, blah. And we start playing our games. So they have a lift. It's a garage. So they have a lift right there. We put the car up on the lift. I get under it. I got this really bright flashlight on my keychain, and I'm all up in there. And I'm like, I'm running my fingers. I'm like, there's all this motor oil everywhere. I'm like, there's motor oil all over the filter. There's motor oil here, there, all over the place. And I'm like, no, this is not good. Then one of their guys comes over. They're like, "Oh, looks like the power steering fluid. There's a leak in the power steering." I'm like, I don't know about that. And then I'm looking at the CV joints, the boots. The boots looked okay, but there's grease everywhere, especially on the passenger side front wheel. All around the CV joint, there's just grease all over the place. The whole brake caliper is covered in grease. And I'm like, something in there is throwing grease all over the freaking place. And I don't need. JS says they don't have a 50-point inspection sheet. When you're paying $5-6 for a used car, you are the 50-point inspection sheet. That's your job at that point. If you're going to get the certified pre-owned BMW or whatever from the certified pre-owned dealer, then yeah, you're going to get some of that. This did have a Carfax, though. The Carfax for this car showed that the timing belt was changed at 100,000 miles. It showed all kinds of stuff was done to it. And that had new struts. It wasn't all bad, but all the grease on the chassis and everywhere in that front end, plus the oil, I'm like just rubbing my fingers across different things and my whole hands are covered in oil. And I'm like, nah, I can't do this. I can't do this. Even if they could fix it before I buy it, I'm like, nah, I'm good. So they had another car, which I already planned on looking at if this didn't work out. This was on the same lot for about the same price. So I went and I'm like, how about that Fiat 500 that you got? And it's, so this is a Fiat 500X turbocharged, stick shift, 6-speed manual. And they left me alone with this car for like half an hour. The dude said he wanted to go take a lunch break and eat. And I'm like, go ahead, dude. No, I was like, yeah, go eat. Give me a half an hour to fuck around with this car and look at everything while you're not around bothering me. Yeah, I'll be glad to do that. So this car, I get in there, I look all through the interior once again, I get underneath. It's clean. No oils, no drips, nothing. It has 80,000 miles on it. So it's actually pretty, and it's clean for that mileage. Very clean. And so I open the hood, I let it run. I'm listening for any sounds. There was a couple of cosmetic things. This quarter panel trim, this black trim around the wheel well on the passenger side had a ding, like it needed to be re-glued or something. And there, you can even see on the driver's side door here, there's a misaligned panel. So that as soon as I saw the misaligned panel there, I'm like, something's up. And so on the other side, there was a little bit, you can't see it because there's no picture, but near the gas, and they're not putting a picture on purpose. There's a couple of dings in the back quarter panel next to the gas pump, but it's all cosmetic at this point. And so I'm like, okay, I'm cool with this for now. Let's take it on a test drive. The car was a beast. I'm really not a Fiat guy. I mean, but this car was nice. I mean, it was fast. I mean, I could get myself some speeding tickets in this thing. The turbo was fine. I gave it the gas too. I was like, if it's got a turbocharger, I got to make sure that it works. Well, I'll get there in a minute. Just let me tell the story here. So anyway, we get done and I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking this might be a good one. And so we go and we get the Carfax and it has a salvage title. So already I'm like, cha-ching, here's my negotiating here because the car drove fine. The damage in the Carfax that resulted in the salvage title is on the front end of the car on the driver's side. So that explains the misaligned door panel. But the car, the alignment was fine, but there was an airbag light on the dash. So that could be a loose connection under the seat. That could be a million different things. But once again, I can haggle. There's a gas tank. There's, couple of little dings here and there. But the car was a good drive. It was a good driving car. And so I was all right with it, but for a salvage title, you can get liability insurance, but why would you get full coverage? Because if I got into an accident and the insurance is going to be like, well, what damage came from the prior accident and what damage came from your accident? We'll give you $500. Oh, but you got a $500 deductible. So, okay. You know what I mean? So I would only get minimum. If I bought this car, which I didn't, I would have got minimum coverage for it. Keep the car. Now, another positive thing about this car is the salvage title has 30,000 miles on it. So whoever refurbished this car and put it back on the road, that was at 50,000 miles. So the car has 30,000 miles on it since the title issue. And so that kind of, it didn't say exactly what was done, like what was fixed, what was broken, what went wrong. It said no airbags were deployed. So, but something in the front end totaled the car on the driver's side. And anyway, it's in my budget. So here's where we're at. And this is where it gets funny, because they're at $44.95. Now, they had a price tag in the window of the car of $49.95, but they have it listed on Auto Trader for $44.95, and that's the price on their website. So we go to the back room, and I'm telling the guy, I'm like, all right, I like the car, but it's got a salvage title, it's got some dings, it's got that airbag light, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, how about you put me in that car out the door, taxes, fees, titles, everything else, $3,500. I'll write you a check right now. How's that sound? Well, I knew what they were going to do. Ha, 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 you're kidding me. But that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to tell them what you want to pay. You ever watch Pawn Stars? Rick's going to offer you $25 and you're going to be saying, well, I was looking for more like $5,000. And then Rick's going to be like, $200 is the best I can do. And you're going to be like, well, I'll come down to 2,000 and that's my best. And then you're either going to not make the deal or Rick will go, all right, 1,500, that's it. That's how it's supposed to go back. So of course I'm going to go 3,500 knowing that they're not going to do anything except laugh. And I'm like, okay, you got good joke. Haha, funny time. Now you tell me a price. And they're like $44.95. We've already taken $500 off of our price, which was on the car. They're like, we're not going to go down any more than that. And I'm like, well, that might be a good price if it had a clean title, but I'm not. So, and the guy was like, okay. So we're stalled. I'm $3,500. He's at $44.95. I'm at $3,500 all in. $44.95 means $5,100 all in. So he's at 51, I'm at 35. I'm like, no, we're not even close. So, but I had a number in my head, and I didn't do the homework on this car like I did on the Subaru. This was like, just if the Subaru doesn't work out, may as well look at this one since I'm already there. And I was already there, and I wasn't going to buy the Subaru. That was just no go. So I wouldn't even I would not have bought that Subaru for $1,000 because I just was like, yeah, I buy this thing for $1,000 and I got to spend $4,000 to fix it. And then what? So no, this thing was in good shape. I mean, this thing drove nice, beautiful. Stick shift was smooth. Clutch was good. Perfect. I mean, the gearbox and the clutch were perfect on this car. And I put it through. I mean, I drove it. I was like, I threw the guy in the seat a little bit because he went on a ride along. And so I was like, I was fine with it. But I'm like, I'm going to drive this thing. So anyway, we're going back and forth. And he goes, wait here a minute. He did the whole, wait here a minute. I'll go talk to my manager and see what I can do. So, of course, that's when they leave you in the sales office for 20 minutes. So I sat there for 20 minutes just screwing around. I was doing homework. I was looking at Like, what should I offer for this car? Trying to figure out like what is a good number with the salvage title, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm like, all right, so now is where it gets funny. The dude comes back. Well, the guy doesn't come back to the room. This cute senorita comes into the room with her cleavage hanging out, all dressed up in a nice pantsuit, smelling like she just put on some fresh perfume. And I'm like, oh, give me a break. And she's like, hello, senor. Would you like to come talk to me about this car? And, like all like this. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on now? So we go into her office and there's another senorita in there. And so they brought in these two piece of ass saleswomen after spraying her office with perfume, thinking, okay, we're going to get him we'll put a couple of titties in his face and see what he does, see if we can break him down and get him to cave in. And I'm sitting here thinking, look, my last relationship made me immune to the whole titty tactic. So nice try, but boobies and perfume and winks and all that no, that's not going to work. The Hooters approach is not going to make me cave in. Looking at some boobies at Hooters, maybe I'll give you a 20% tip on that bill instead of, stiffing you. No pun intended. But titties at the car dealership when you're trying to get me to cave in, no. So they wouldn't budge. They would not budge from this price. And I'm thinking, come on, you're going to come down a little bit. Now, I was willing to go $4,700 all in. And so I threw that out there as a last ditch. I'm like, they came to me and said, well, how about instead of you having to pay $5,200 today, you give us 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. You give us $4,600 now, and we'll let you pay us the $600 over 2 months. $300 a month for the next 2 months. You can just stop in and pay us, and we'll let you drive off with it today. And I'm like, I don't need that. I'm like, I can write you a check right now for $4,700 if you can take that, and I'll drive home with it today. I mean, I'm like, I wish I could videotape this shit because you'd be laughing. Because I'm like, I'm like, we're here. I'm here. You're there. $4,700. That's it. That's as high as I'm going. And so they're not caving in. They're trying to get me to pay the $5,100. But now they're like, well, we'll make it so you don't have to pay it all today. And it's not like some buy here, pay here lot. That's not what they were doing. There was no interest or whatever. They were just going to let me drive off without paying the $5,100. And so I'm like, all right, they won't come down a single penny on this price. So I'm like, all right, you can take my contact info. And if this thing sits around for a couple more weeks or whatever, feel free to give me a call, blah, blah, blah. So I start packing all my stuff back in my bag, and I'm zipping up my backpack and putting my helmet on. And the lady's senorita's like, hold on just a minute. Can you hold on just a minute? And she leaves the office. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So she goes to talk to the manager again, about 5-10 minutes. And then she comes back in. And she's like, sorry, I tried to get them to come down, but they just won't come down. That's going to be our price, blah, blah, blah. We've got a lot of people interested in this car. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's why you had to drop the price by $500 2 weeks ago while it's been sitting on your lot for the last month and a half. But, what do I know? And so anyway, I'm just like, whatever at this point. And I packed my bag and I'm like, shaking everybody's hand, like they're just dumbfounded. They're probably not used to someone just walking away over $500, but I'm like, why not? What do I got to lose? I'll do that. I'll walk away for $100. I walked away from a Jeep Wrangler trade. I was going to trade my Wrangler for a better Wrangler, and we were like $1,000 apart. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I'll drive home. And they didn't believe that I was going to do it till I got out and drove off. And then they called me the next morning and I still didn't do it. Well, they called me the next morning to tell me that they sold the Jeep. And I'm like, I left after the dealership closed. And that, like, they closed at 6 and I was there until, I wasted their time until 7:30, haggling back and forth, and we couldn't come. They thought they were going to get me, but they didn't. So I went home at 7:30. My son was like 12 years old. He was laughing his ass off. He's just like, he's young, and he thought it was funny what I was doing to them. Because I told him, I said, I'm teaching you something here. Pay attention. Pay attention to what they're doing and pay attention to what I'm doing. And he just sat there laughing the whole time. So we go home. They open at 9 in the morning. They called me at 9:01. And I'm like, boom, gotcha. And they called me to say that they sold the Jeep. And I'm like, now I understand why they wouldn't budge. Because they had a guy on the phone that day who was probably chomping at the bit to buy this Jeep. And they used me as leverage to pressure him into buying it. They're like, you got to get here first thing in the morning or that thing's going to be gone. That's what they did to this. Whoever bought that Jeep, they used me to get him to come pay full price for it. So I'm like, whatever, that's fine. It was a nice Jeep. But for me, it wasn't going to work because the tires were too big and the engine's too underpowered. And I took it out on a test drive by myself, and I couldn't get the Jeep to go faster than 65. No matter what I did, because the wheels were so oversized, the gearing hadn't been changed from stock, and it was a beautiful Jeep with probably $15,000 worth of add-ons and mods, and it was a showpiece. It was crazy awesome. But mine was more stock, and the only modifications I had done to my own Jeep were things that were for me. I put airbags in the back springs to keep the back up when I loaded it down with heavy camping equipment. I had a really, really nice bicycle rack on the back. I had a really slick gun rack that could hold 2 guns in the top of the hard top. And I had a whole bunch of other stuff that I had done to it. But all of my modifications were very subtle. I put Rubicon wheels on it with nice tires, but I didn't go oversize on the tires because I drove it on the highway, and those things are hard to drive on the highway. You can't, in a 2-door Wrangler, man, you can't go on a JK, you can't go faster than 85 without, unless you're going downhill, and that's in 4th gear flooring it. Like, you're just not, those things, it's like driving a brick wall into the wind. It's just not going to go. So I walked away from a deal that even my son was like, man, that was a nice Jeep, Dad. I'm like, yeah, but you got to do what you got to do. So we couldn't come to a deal on this Fiat. And so I'm like, I'll walk away and see if they call me tomorrow. And so now I'm kind of like, of course, I'm kind of questioning it. And let me see here. So now I look up the Blue Book value of this. We're 500. Crippled Genius says, don't ever take shit from a salesman. They will take you for everything. I'm like, we're $500 apart. So it wasn't like, I was half tempted to do it, because is it worth $500 for me not to be able to drive to work this weekend and have to do the bicycle thing Saturday and Monday? Okay, fine. But I don't know. My spirit guide was saying no. So I come home and I look up the Blue Book value of this car. And without a salvage title, Blue Book's telling me 5,600 to 6,900 range with the 80,000 miles that it has. And I'm like, all right, if you subtract 20 to 40% of the value for having a salvage title, which is what you're supposed to do in that case, then we're at 4,500 roundabout base price before all the BS and taxes and everything. And so I'm kind of like, I'm torn, because I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, in my $5,000 to $6,000 budget, I'm going to be going to look at like one car full of problems after the next. I'm going to have to pay 10 grand or above to get something that's like really solid and clean. And, that Subaru was a mess. that Subaru in the front, there was that Subaru. I'm glad that they don't detail their cars under the hood, because then you can see everything that's going on. And I'm like, that Subaru was like, no way. Like, if that Fiat didn't sit on their lot, I would have just said, yeah, I'm good. I'm going home. And I would have been fine with that. I wasn't even going to make an offer for the Subaru, because I'm like, no, I'm not doing no head gasket repair 3 months into owning a car. And there was something going on with that car. It was a mess. And I spent half an hour looking at it before I even drove it. So I went through and just, bushings, spraying, all of it. This Fiat, I feel like it's a clean car. I feel like I could go to New York and back without an issue. Blue Sky asks me. Yeah, I feel like I could. The Subaru, no. The Fiat, yes. I felt like it would get me to and from. There was nothing wrong with it. Mechanically, there was nothing wrong. An airbag light, that could be a million different things. I was like, I don't even care right now about that. So what I had to do when I came home, because I'm kind of torn. So I'm thinking, like, should I just sit around tomorrow until about noon? See if they call me in the morning and say, we changed our mind, we'll let you come back and get that car if you still want it. Or, do I call them tomorrow afternoon and cave in and say, okay, I'll do it? But I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to do that. And I don't like to lose. So the insurance is the same for the Subaru and the Fiat. I got quotes. Okay, so I'll show you that. Here is my quote this was the quote for the Subaru for a 6-month policy, $819 from Progressive. And this is all minimum coverage, $511. But when I went to this other company, the one that gave me the 511 quote from Progressive, we'll check all the other companies for you. They gave me an $800. Everybody I checked gave me an $800 quote for a 6-month policy, which is terrible. But I told you all, when you don't have insurance for maybe 3 months or more, the auto insurance companies will rake you over the coals, and they'll pretend like that's a good reason to jack up your rate. So what you have to do is sign up for a 6-month policy, but don't pay in full. Pay the minimum that you can. And after 30 days, go get another quote. And then if another company doesn't do better, wait another 30 days, go get another quote again. And eventually they're going to come down to where it's $800 for a year instead of $800 for 6 months, or $500 or $600 for a whole year instead of $500 to $600 for 6 months. But when you're a lapse in coverage, yeah, it's crazy. For $819 from Progressive, I had 3 cars insured. When I got arrested, I had 3 cars on my insurance, full coverage on all 3 cars, and I still paid less than the $819, and that was for 12 months to have full coverage on 3 cars. And now they want to charge me, same company that I was with for years and years and years. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, we're just going to jack you $800 for 6 months. But like I said, you don't have to keep your policy for 6 months. You can do it for a month. They told me they could get me covered for $150. So pay $150, and after 30 days, when your bill is due, go get a quote. Go get a quote. See what the quotes are. If you can get a better one, jump. Go get a different insurance company. Wait a couple months. Go get another quote. In 6 months, you should be able to get back to what your insurance rates were when you had continuous coverage. But one of the worst things you can do is not have insurance for more than a month. 90 days, oh, they'll kill you. It's like they're like, oh, we're going to treat him like a 15-year-old that has 3 DUIs and doesn't even have his driver's license yet because you didn't have a car for a few months. So me not having a car for a few months means what? I'm a dangerous driver now. I've only been driving for, 40 years now or whatever. I guess if I started, I kind of did start driving when I was 10, but I don't know if driving a pickup truck around a cornfield counts. But whatever. I learned how to drive a stick when I was 15 years old. So they looked at me weird at the dealership when I said I wanted to drive the stick shift Fiat. And so that's another thing that they have on this car. They're not going to be able to sell it to a millennial. They're only going to be able to sell this to Generation X and above. And because nobody knows how to drive a stick under 40 years old. So yeah, Blue said mine went to $250 a month when it was $165. AAA, no accidents, 30-year coverage, and great FICO score. Yeah, they're terrible. These insurance companies are terrible, but it's a necessary thing. So I'll just do the best I can. I was actually, to tell you the truth, I was expecting it to be worse. I was expecting it to be over $1,000 for a 6-month policy. So when I saw 800, I was like, oh. And I wasn't like happy about that, but I was like, well, could be worse. And Blue Sky says stick shifts don't sell very well. No, they don't. So I decided, so instead of caving in to the dealer tomorrow, I decided I'm going to call a different dealership. So here's what I'm going to look at. Toyota Corolla, a 2006 Toyota Corolla, manual transmission, and 159,000 miles on it, but it's way overpriced for the market. He wants the sticker price right now is $59.88. That's way more than the Fiat that I was looking at. But I know that the value of this car is somewhere around $4,000 to $5,000. And I went to Google Maps and looked at the reviews of this dealership. And all the people in the reviews says that this guy will come down in price. And so he's putting up a high price, expecting you to come in haggling. So, and it even says right here, make cash offer in the description. So I'll be coming in with an offer. It's 10 miles away. I can ride my bike there in 20 minutes. So it's not a big deal to go there and look at this car. It's a stick shift. It could be fun to drive. It's a Toyota. In the pictures, the only thing I can see is this scuff on the back bumper. The Fiat had damage. The back gas, like I told you, the misaligned panel, the trim on the front wheel well, and it had some damage near, like scrapes near the back of the gas tank door, whatever you call that. And so this one's got a little bit, it's got a scuff. You can buff that out if it's plastic. If that's a plastic bumper, I can make that go away. I can make that look new again without even trying. With just get a buffing wheel and some buffing compound, and if that like I said, if that's a plastic bumper, that'll come right out. But when you look in person, things look different. You see things, you see more things wrong, etc. And he's only got a handful of pictures of the outside. There's no interior shots. I don't even think their website had. I don't even think the website had. This car was on the website. Oh, there it is. Visit dealer website. Visit dealer website. I didn't think the website even had more pictures. Sedan. Here we go. Corolla. I don't think he had any different pictures. Oh, there were more pictures. Okay, yeah. Oh, so here's more pictures of it. Boom. Here's the interior. Let's take a look at the shift boot here. Looks like it might have a rip in it. That looks messed up. There's a rip in the shift boot. So, like, I'll see things. And I told the guy today, I'm like, I see everything, dude. So, like, that's like a blessing and a curse, graphic designer's curse. I went to a jewelry shop once to buy a necklace for somebody, and the guy held up the necklace like arm's length away from me, and I said, that stone has a chip in it. And he's like, huh? And I'm like, that stone has a chip in it. He's like, what? And he gets out his loop and he's looking at the thing and he goes, holy crap, you saw that? And I'm like, yeah, dude, I see everything. Yeah, that sucks. I mean, a shift boot doesn't cost that much money. What do we got here on that looks a little weird in the picture. The screen on the radio there looks like something's going on. Like there, I'll see everything. The Subaru, like the headlights were foggy. Like, yeah, there is something going on with that stereo faceplate. It's all scratched up. Like, how the hell does that get all scratched up? And okay, I do remember looking at the pictures of this because it did show under the hood, and under the hood, where here we are. Under the hood, it doesn't look clean, but this is a 2009. So JS was saying, did you check the radiator coolant? Yeah. On the Fiat, I checked the oil and the coolant. Everything was fine. The Subaru, I didn't even pull the dipstick out or look at the coolant because I was already convinced that I didn't want it. I already knew I didn't want the Subaru before they put it up on the lift for me to go under it. And I was just like, and then when I got under it and I saw all the stuff I saw, I was like, yeah, I definitely don't like, we don't need to talk anymore. I'm not even like, I'm like, should I pull the dipstick or look in the coolant to see if oil and coolant mix together? Yeah, because that'll tell you if the head gasket gets bad. But when you see oil all over the bottom of the undercarriage and you see grease near the axles and the brake calipers were covered in grease. And I'm like, so the CVs are leaking grease all over the place. And there looked like the boots looked fine, but there was something that I could see that was bent or messed up. And I'm like, so yeah, okay, I got to replace the CV boots and re-grease them if the axles aren't all trashed anyway. And so, but anyway, the one nice thing about that dealership is they didn't do any detailing on the cars. So you're seeing them in the condition they bought them. So you go and you look at a Toyota under the hood. It's a 2009, so it's not going to look new. And if it did look brand new, that would be more suspect to me because they're hiding something, at least when it's all beat up. Like, look at this battery thing holding the battery, looks like it's bent. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to look like. Like even the hoses and stuff, you'll be able to, like, in a vehicle in this condition under the hood, you're going to see everything that's dripping. You're going to see anything that's like fresh oil stains, all that kind of stuff. It's all going to be right out there for you to see. If they go in detail under the hood, like watch the Chris Fix video and get in there and just polish everything, or even worse, where they take it to the car wash and just blast it under the hood just to make it look shiny again. First, you're getting water everywhere. And so aren't there a lot of flood cars in the Houston area? I don't know. I mean, it floods here, but not everybody's house goes underwater. So, I mean, I'm sure there are flood cars here. The Subaru spent some time in Denver. For this Toyota, they want who's asking? Moonshine Fuel. For this Toyota, they're asking, where was it? I just had it up. $59.88. And that's way above the market. That's way above the market for that car. But right here, make cash offer. And if I go to this guy, I'll show you because I'm sharing my screen. If you go to this guy's dealership, and I'm helping you guys out, I hope I'm giving you some good tips. Click on reviews. There's some 1-star reviews. It's got 46 reviews. The dealership I went to today has tons of 5-star reviews. And I could kind of see why. They didn't seem like they were trying to rip me off. They just wouldn't budge on that price. The Subaru telling me that it's just a power steering fluid leak. I was like, But I wasn't even going to argue with them because I didn't want to buy the car. But paid cash and he gave me a discount. Let's see. Doug is fair with his prices and very easy to work with. He was very patient. I couldn't be happier. Blah, blah, blah. There was a few other reviews that I skimmed through, and they all said that he's easy to work with on the price. So, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. JS said should be 4,500, and I'm like, yeah, it should be 4,500 exactly. I mean, I would pay $5,000 for this car because if the car is 4,500, it's going to be about 5,200 out the door with taxes and the BS and the title and the registration and all that. So I'm going to do a little homework. I'll have a number in my head before I even leave the house. And then we go from there. And that number I'll probably say 4,000 out the door as my low ball, playing Pawn Stars with this guy and see what he does. Because he's going to come back and be like, no, I'll do 5,500. And then I'll be like, how about 4,500? And then I'll stop at 45. Because it's a 20-year-old car. Exactly, Moonshine. It's a Toyota Grok. So I'm using AI too. Just because why not? So I can show you some of the stuff that Grok is telling me. Because Grok can look up different things like value and like car values and things like that. And so I can ask it questions and it can spit me out some stuff saying that the Fiat is a better value than the Corolla, but mainly because of the price. But it says the Corolla has a higher reliability. So if I'm saying which car would be more reliable going back and forth from Pittsburgh to Houston, they're telling me, Grok is telling me the Corolla. And it's also saying if negotiated to 4,500 to $5,000 all in, and it has a clean title, get the Corolla. So yeah, what is he asking for this? Almost $6,000. I won't pay that much for that car, but I'll go look at it because I feel like he's just being ridiculous because he's doing the same thing I'm doing. I'm going to go in and be like, yeah, I'll give you $3,000 for it. He's at $6,000. So we're going to play this game like we're at the flea market and we'll come to an agreement. But if that dealership calls me about this Fiat tomorrow and they say, okay, we'll cave in, I might do it. It was a nice car. The thing was fast. I mean, when you put me in a car that goes like a bat out of hell when you push the gas, and I'm going to be like, I'm going to fall for it. That's like a, I mean, that would be like if a 22-year-old girl that would have been one of Hugh Hefner's girlfriends comes and hits on me. I'm going to be like, okay, let's try it out. So this car, I was basically impressed. I thought this car was going to be weak. And compared to the Subaru, this thing was a bat out of hell. That turbo kicked in third gear, and I was like, yo, and I wasn't even trying. I wasn't like, I didn't want because the guy was doing a ride along with me, and I was like, I don't want to piss him off, but I'm going to mess around with this car, but I'm not going to be a dick. If it was, ultra clean Corolla in, or where are we going? 2006 Corolla LE 4300. Yeah, that one you showed looks like shit, especially under the hood. I mean, this thing, there's no photos of this car, this Fiat under the hood, but it looked brand new under the hood. I mean, it has covers over, it has an engine cover and it has the skid plate on the bottom. But I got in there. I mean, they gave me half an hour to look at this car, so I was sticking my head everywhere. I was looking at everything, and the belts, everything looked clean. This car looked like it had 30,000 miles on it under the hood. Maybe some things were replaced because it was in an accident, but it looked good. And I'm like, compared to that freaking Subaru, oh my God, there was no denying. So anyway, that was that car. So I might go look at this tomorrow because it's close. And I'm going to look at what the guy has on his lot. He has other cars. So maybe he has, like, if I can see 2 or 3 cars, as long as the airbags haven't deployed, it costs $1,500 to fix. The Carfax said it wasn't severe damage. I don't know why they totaled it, but the car has 30,000 miles put on it, the Fiat, this one, since the accident that caused the salvage title to get issued. The car, whoever owned it after that, put 30,000 miles on the car. So the car's been good enough for somebody to put 30,000 miles on it after it got fixed. And for me, I'm like, I don't really feel like I'm going to get a car for more than a couple of years before I want to trade it in. I just need to get a car. And this is my budget. Like, I put $6,000 as my max for my budget, but I don't want to spend $6,000 if I don't have to. And I could go up to $7,000, but I want to have money left over when I'm done. So I mean, 4 or 5 would be great. So where's the link for the clean Toyota? I don't see it. I'll pull it up in front of everybody, but it just says 2006 Toyota, but it doesn't have a link. Paste the URL, the naked URL, into the feed and see if it shows up, because I'll show it to everybody if you have it. Let's see. So what else? Yeah, every Toyota I've owned. I had a Toyota Tercel from like 1984, and it was like a crappy car. It was like the most basic car I've ever owned in my life, and it was the most reliable car I've ever owned. And because it was such a basic car, there was a day that I needed to replace all 4 tires on it. It was like $150 to replace all 4 tires on that stupid car. And then I gave the car to a friend when I was done with it, and he drove it for like 2 years. The only thing, I put new tires on it and changed the oil. I owned it for 2 or 3 years. My friend owned it for 2. And it already had like 160,000 miles on it when I got it. It was given to me with that many miles on it. And the person that gave it to me said he couldn't give it to anybody because it was stick shift and nobody could drive it. And so when I told him I drive a stick, he goes, "Oh, I've got the perfect car. Here, take it. You'd be doing me a favor. I got to get rid of this thing." And that's a longer story than that. But once again, nobody knows. Having a stick shift is like the millennial anti-theft device, because nobody will be able to drive it. So you don't got to worry about it being stolen. Not too far away from me, in fact, 3 miles away from me, I'm not even going to, there's a Volkswagen Jetta 2016. Looks all right. I like Jettas. It's an automatic transmission, 146,000 miles, $4,000. So if I can talk them down, even like if that's the asking price and I can haggle even more, that might be all right. I've seen people with Jettas get 200,000 miles and up. They're pretty good cars. 2016. Yeah, I don't know if I want a sedan, but once again, beggars can't be choosers. I just want a car. So, but I want to be able to look at the car. I know we were talking about that dude that has that Honda out in California. I would have to, that would be like a 2 month process to have that shipped here. And then for me to do whatever I got to do to get it on the road. I'm kind of at the point where I just want to do it. And I'm only looking at dealerships because I want to go into the dealership, get the paperwork done, and drive home and just be done with that. I don't want to be making trips to the DMV and all that kind of stuff. And I've just kind of made up my mind on that. I'm not 100% firm. I mean, if a unicorn popped out of the woods and it was a private seller and it was worth the hassle, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But I haven't seen anything like that except for a Toyota RAV4 that popped up. And I would have actually done that for the RAV4, but it was gone by the time I got my check. So the RAV4 was crossed off the list. And the RAV4 had like 150,000 miles on it. It was in good shape. And then there's this Mitsubishi Mirage, which I've driven one of these. I've driven this exact car. I know what it is. It's a slow, basic car that will get you from A to B. And I put 200 miles on one of these one day, and it cost me $4 in gas to fill the gas tank back up. So this thing's it's a 3-cylinder engine. I mean, it's like I think I've driven lawnmowers that are faster than this thing, but it got me to Houston. It got me to downtown Houston and back and around and about, and I did all kinds of different things that day since I had it. I had to go to Houston and back, and I couldn't borrow my friend's truck. So I rented a car for it. But then I'm like, I've got this car. I'm going to drive it. I'm going to do some stuff. And so I got my money's worth out of it. Wasn't a bad car. I would totally trust that car to go to New York and back. If I need 4 tires, look at these things. They're like wagon wheels. They're going to be cheap if I have to buy new tires, new brakes, whatever. It's got a CVT transmission, which I don't like. But they say that the CVT in this particular car is reliable because the car doesn't weigh anything. And there's that. JS was like, how about Ford trucks? Pickup trucks are out of my league right now, or I'd get one. I'll show you. This is the best deal I've seen on a pickup truck. I'm not getting a pickup truck if it's not a 4x4 for begin. I won't get a rear-wheel drive pickup truck. There's a 2006 Ford F-150 FX4, 249,000 miles on it for $6,000. Pickup trucks are just too expensive. You got to have like 10 grand just to get in the game. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, look at that. The front end, the Ford badge is all messed up. The paint's all jacked up. Like, it's just an oval with no Ford logo on it. This thing, I don't know if it's, who knows if it's been taken off road. I mean, it looks like it's okay. And the FX4 is one of the best packages. It's got the jump seats. I don't like the 4-door pickup trucks, but the crew cab like this, I don't mind. Goodyear, they were reliable in the mid-2000s, but this one's got 249,000 miles on it. So, I mean, how reliable are we talking? Like, that seems like the end of life. That's like a cancer patient on a bed with hospice standing next to it. You know what I mean? Waiting for it to go. And who's going to be the lucky driver holding on to the steering wheel when that happens? I don't want it to be me. So there's that. There's this Mitsubishi, and then the last one that I keep pulling up, and this is like totally off the wall. This thing's all the way almost. I'd have to go almost down to Galveston to even look at this thing. But there's this SLK 230 with the retractable hardtop Mercedes, 1998, beautiful little coupe 2-door fun car. But it's rear-wheel drive. So if I want to go to New York and Pittsburgh, if it snows, I'm screwed. If it snows, I'm going to have to go buy sandbags or something and put them in the back just to be able to drive it in the snow. So, I mean, that's not the... I've driven cars like this in the snow, and they're not fun at all. I wouldn't worry about that here in Houston, but this to me, when I look at the photos of it, it looks like someone's fun car that they kept in a garage and took it out for pleasure and fun time. But it could be highly detailed. Who knows what they're hiding on a 1998? I can't even do the math. That car is so old. We're looking at a 27-year-old car right there. So I could get, in Pennsylvania, I could get classic plates and not have to get inspection. Could be maintained by a rich old man. You don't know. I mean, this thing's on my radar. I can buy it. It's $59.95. I could probably haggle a little bit if it's been sitting for a while. The biggest problem with this is it's rear-wheel drive. It's a 2-seat. I barely have enough room for groceries. If I go grocery shopping, the groceries are going to have to go in the front seat. I wonder why, when I look at the photographs, if it has a retractable roof, why didn't they show any pictures of the top down? And one of the notes about this car is that a lot of these old ones, the roof stops working. So I'm like, is that why they're not showing a picture? Because who would put a convertible up for sale and then not show a picture with the top down? I'm just saying psychology here tells me that there's a reason why. And can I go to this dealership's website and see some more photos? Sometimes they have it. Where am I here? What is there's no link to the dealership. Auto for less. So there is there it is. Here's their website. And we're just doing this. We're doing this together. Pre-owned inventory. And make Mercedes. Can't be that many. It's not even listed. Oh, here we go. For Mercedes. Here it is. Boom. Details. Let's see if they got more pictures here. And same pictures. So, yeah, I mean, Mercedes are good. My Mini Cooper, I had a Mini Cooper S, and I could pull up pictures of it, but not while we talk, I don't think. I mean, I can search for them while we talk, but I had a Mini Cooper S, and it was a 2003, and I got rid of it in 2022. And so the car was almost 20 years old. And as far as total cost of ownership, I bought it for $5,000. I put in, the day I bought it, I got a Borla exhaust for $600 on closeout because the car was so old. Borla had a $1,200 exhaust on sale for $600, and I needed a new muffler. So I was like, boom. And Timothy says, check the link. I don't see a link. So I don't know if it's like not letting us have links in the feed, because I don't see a link. It's there. Check the link. I'm scrolling up to look for it, and I don't see it. So I'm not 100% sure. Oh, subs can't send links on chat. You can, okay, Timothy, if you send, I'll open up my email client. If you send that link to adam@litgood.com, I'll pull it up for everybody to see. Because just send it to adam@litgood.com, and I'll just keep my window open off to the side here where you can't see. But if you send me the link, I can pull it up. Okay, that's weird. Okay, let's see here. So anyway, my Mini Cooper, I bought it for $5,000. I put about $1,000 into it within a month or two of owning it. New exhaust, alternator, a couple other little things, glove box door, stuff like that. And I owned the car for 6 years, and the only thing I ever fixed on it was brakes, brake pads, tires, and the occasional like sensor, because I'd get check engine lights all the time. You'd be driving along, boom, check engine light, replace the sensor. Driving along, boom, check engine light. What's this now? Another sensor. So like all the sensors on the car were starting to burn out because the car had about 120,000 miles on it. But it was a fun car to own. That was like the most fun car I ever owned in my life, that Mini Cooper. It was so much fun. Let's see here. Okay, so he said he sent it. I gotta pull it up. Might take a minute for me to get it, but I'll keep it open. So that's an alias to another email address. So when you send me that email, it has to bounce around a little bit before I get it. But I should get it, but it might take a minute. And if I don't get it, if I don't get it, that means something went wrong. And I'll have to fix that. But I haven't got it yet. But it might. I'll keep my eyes open. Let's see here. Do I have photos of my? I have to have photos of my Mini somewhere. Off the top of my head, no. Well, anyway, maybe one of these days I'll have a picture of my Mini that I got rid of. But it was a fun car. So I wouldn't be scared of buying a Mercedes that old. But when it does need to be fixed, the problem is going to be twofold. The parts could be expensive. They may or may not. Minis after 2002 are made by BMW. So it's all BMW parts. And so the biggest thing with my Mini, it wasn't the cost of the parts. Some things were stupid expensive, but the biggest problem with the Mini being that old, it was a 20-year-old car. When you need something, it has to be special ordered. Like I'd take my car in to get brakes worked on, and my mechanic would be like, well, we're going to need to have it for a couple of weeks because we can't find your brake pads anywhere. Brake pads. Like even brake pads, he'd be like, well, we found a place. Yeah, we just ordered them. It's going to take a few days to get here. And then when they get here, we'll slot it in. Plus I got the friend and family discount from that mechanic because they were friends of mine. And they knew I had 2 other cars. So they're like, you're fine. It's not like you need your car. So we're just going to, we'll get around to it when we get around to it. And so if you have a friend, if you have somebody that can work on stuff like this, that's not going to, soak you over the coals to do things. Most full service garages will work on Mercedes, BMW, all the German cars. But certain things can cost money and don't go to the dealership. Like I know a girl who bought a Mercedes, and she was a rich girl, like daddy's little rich girl. And I dated her for a little bit. But then she met a guy named Trevor, and Trevor must have had a lot of money because, we stopped seeing each other, but we were still friends. And she bought a Mercedes, a cheap one, like bottom of the line Mercedes. And she went and put new tires on it one day, and she paid like $1,200 for tires for a car like this. Not any bigger than this. It wasn't this car, but it was like the cheapest 2-door Mercedes that you could get. And I'm like, you paid too much. And I'm like, where did you go? The dealership. Well, duh. Tires are tires. She was like, I'm like, they're not giving you like special Mercedes tires for why you think you had to go to the Mercedes dealer to get tires? Go to a tire shop. It's based on the size of your rim. It's not based on whether it's a Mercedes or not. I'm like, you probably could have got 4 tires for that car, better tires for like $600 based on what size her wheels are and whatnot. But yeah, if you go to the Mercedes dealer, good luck. You're going to be paying out the nose to get stuff done. But If you go to your local mechanic who happens to know how to do it, then you're okay. But the chances of me going to look at this car are slim to none. It's just fun to look at. So it's fun to know like what your budget is. And I've got all these bookmarks. This is another one that pops up as a good buy. This Acura 2004 Acura. And I have a few friends that have driven some Acuras and had good luck with them. And it looks like a nice car. I don't like low profile tires because I like to go places where I would rather have a Jeep. I need clearance under my car, and I don't want to have to buy a new rim because I hit a pothole. So like that kind of stuff, I don't like that. I don't like low riding cars. Maybe my Mini Cooper was low riding and I treated that thing as such. I drove it on the highway to and from Pittsburgh to go to the office and back. And I pretty much didn't take it anywhere where I thought I could hit a pothole. And I even put bigger tires on the Mini than what it came with when it was time to get new tires. But this car is beat on the inside. Look at all the damage on the seats and stuff. And I'm like, eh. But this one was popping up as like one of the better deals that I had bookmarked in terms of reliability and stuff. But I'm like, nah. And so I've got, I keep doing my homework, but I feel like that Fiat would be good. If they come down $500, I'd go do it tomorrow. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to ride my bicycle Saturday, Monday, and from there, I'm going to have to ride my bike Saturday and Monday, and because I'm not expecting to get a car. I don't think I would buy that Corolla either, just based on, but I'm going to look at what else is on that lot so that I'm not going to just look at one car. Maybe he's got something better. I thought he had other Toyotas. He had other cars. I just didn't take the time to dig in and look at it closely. And, let me check. Did the link go through? Here we go. Boom. Okay, so where are we at? I'll share my screen again. All right, so I haven't really dug deep into Craigslist either, mainly because I'm looking for a dealership to buy from. This is close to me too. 4,300. It's a private. That's clean. It's a private sell. Looks like a private seller. How many miles? 167,000. It does look better under the hood. It doesn't look like it was detailed or anything either. So, yeah, that looks nicer for sure. Part of the reason why that other Corolla is more expensive is because I think 5 to 10% of the Corollas that they made that year were stick shift. So they're considered rare. It doesn't have to be a stick shift. Dealerships literally buy junk cars on Craigslist and wash them and jack up the price. Sure, they sure do. My only I just don't want to buy from a private seller because of all the BS. Like, how long after I buy the car do I have to wait before I can even drive it? Like, I don't know what the process is here, but everything in Texas has been a hassle for me. So, like, do I got to make an appointment at the DMV and wait 2 months to get my appointment at the DMV to go down there and be told, oh, you don't have this or you don't have that. We can't give you license plates, blah, 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 and spend 4 months trying to get license plates for a freaking car I just bought? Or do I go to a dealership and just pay and drive home and be done with it and let them do it? If I already owned a car, and like if I found a car on Craigslist or from a private seller that I was like, boom, like I look at this Corolla here and it's got hubcaps. It's got steel rims with ugly hubcaps. But I'm not like, if If it's just a car, whatever. The Fiat has hubcaps too. So the Fiat doesn't have nice wheels. The Subaru didn't have nice wheels. They weren't steel rims with hubcaps, but they weren't good wheels. And the Subaru logo, was falling off the the center cap on the Subaru rims. They'd be gone in about a week if I bought that car. So dealership or a good seller will go to the DMV with you. Yeah, I agree with that. I've done that before for the title transfer. In Pennsylvania, the nice thing about Pennsylvania is you don't have to go to the DMV for anything, because the DMV was so bad in Pennsylvania that what they did was they said, okay, private companies can take over. And so they let AAA, you can go to AAA and get your driver's license, and they will print your driver's license on a machine and hand you the card right there. You don't got to wait for it to come in the mail or nothing like that. That guy will take $3,700 for that car, worth the hassle, bill of sale, and title. That's it. So, yeah, I'm going to put it on my list. So it looks clean. It looks like it's a decent ride. It looks better than the other one. Like, it makes me not want to go look at that other one when I see the one you just sent me, to be honest. So we're already there. Yeah, Moonshine says the DMV can reassure you everything is good. Like, they're going to, I saw the Carfax of, I looked at it myself. Like, I sat there scrolling through it for both cars I looked at today. So I knew everything that was on those records. It wasn't like they weren't hiding that from me. The only thing that there was no specific information about what was in that accident. I would think as long as you have insurance, you can drive it. From what I understand, you don't even go to the DMV for the license or for the registration. You have to go to like the tax office or the I don't know, like Texas, I don't know. If it was Pennsylvania, you go to AAA. You go to AAA for everything. You can go to the DMV, but nobody does. And as a result of privatization, the DMV actually got better, because there were a couple times I did have to go to the DMV in Pennsylvania and the experience wasn't bad. And AAA got a little bit worse customer service wise. Like, they kind of met in the middle somewhere. So AAA became more like the DMV, and the DMV became more like AAA. And so if AAA was up here for service and the DMV was bottom of the barrel, they kind of went like this and just kind of met in the middle. So if you go to the DMV or AAA, it's almost the same experience now, which is better, because Pennsylvania used to be a nightmare for anything. Does Houston require an inspection sticker? Yes and no. They just eliminated state inspections recently, like within like the last 6 months to a year. Because my best friend had to get his truck inspected, and then like a month later, you don't have to get them inspected anymore. But if you live in Harris County, which I do, you have to get an emissions check of some kind. But if you live in the next county, which is where my friend lives in Montgomery County, you don't. So dealing with the DMV is better than the hassle you would get with these shady bootleg used car lots, except for that clean Mercedes. That looked great. These used car lots, I'm going to buy the car and leave and never come back. Like, that's what I'm doing with one of those lots. So if I were to buy that, which I'm not, I walked away from it today, so it's not a big deal. If I buy a vehicle from a lot, I'm not buying an extended warranty or any of that. It's as is. I'm whatever, you're just buying someone else's problem no matter what you buy. And But yeah, I mean, I'm going to dig into Craigslist a little more. That's the one thing I haven't done. And so, but I'm trying. I also realized that I don't want to go on a bicycle. Excuse me. I don't want to go on a 30-mile bicycle ride to look at a car and then turn around and ride my bike home. So I got to kind of stick within the local area that I'm at. But spring is close to me. This car, this Toyota Corolla that you sent me is listed as being, I wouldn't say walking distance from me, but it's close. It's like about the same distance I went to look at a car today. So it's I would go look at this for sure. It looks clean. I don't see scuffs, dents, marks, nothing. Looks good under the hood. Looks like an all-round car, just a basic car, which is all I need. But I get tempted when I drive something fun that like that freaking Fiat was fun to drive. I'm telling you, it was I would not have ever wanted to buy that car until I drove it. And I was like, yo, the gearbox, it was one of the smoothest shifting gearboxes I've ever shifted. It was so nice. Better than my Mini, better than my Jeep. No notchy shifting, nothing. It was smooth as silk. It was the smoothest shifting. I've all my cars, pretty much every car I've ever owned was a stick shift except for like 2. And that was the nicest stick shift I've driven. My neighbor here has a nice Camry. Like it must be one of the, I don't know what trim package it is, but it's all like pimped out and like it looks like it would be in a drag race Camry. Probably is a V6. It was. I mean, his Camry looks really nice. He's got twin tailpipe exhaust. I don't know anything about that car other than I see it out there all the time, and it looks like a really nice Camry. And then I have another friend who had the luxury Camry with this was like in the mid 2000s with the wood trim. It looked like you were driving around in a Lexus. She bought this Camry. She probably still drives it to this day for all I know, because those things last forever. I would not be surprised. She told me, it was a friend of mine I used to work with. She told me, I'm going to drive this car till the wheels fall off. And it was basically brand new when I was riding around in it. But it was it fit her style. It was like the Cadillac of Camrys, not the one my neighbors got looks like a race car. But I don't know what trim or what. I don't know anything else about that. So, but yeah, thank you for sending that link. I bookmarked it for the Corolla. Basically, all I need to do to get my head out of that space about that Fiat is bookmark 3 or 4 cars to go look at, and then I'll stop doing this in my head. And I feel like if I just wait it out, give it like a week, that dealer will call me back and say, hey, we want to make a deal. Oh, do ya? Or it'll disappear because they sold it to somebody. Either way, I don't care. But it was a fun car to drive. That's for sure. But there was a Honda Civic yesterday at about noon. I found a Honda Accord. My bad. Looked like it was brand spanking new. It was a beautiful Honda Accord. And it had, I can't even show you a picture. I wish I could. It had aftermarket rims. It was a nice car. It was really nice. All the picture. I mean, this thing was beautiful. And the dealership had a firm, no haggle price. And I was like, we'll see about that. And the dealer was like 5 or 6 miles away. And so I bookmarked it thinking I would call today. And that was what I wanted to go look at today. I would have gone look at that Accord instead of the Subaru. But that was noon yesterday. 2 in the afternoon, I looked again and it was gone. Sold. And it was just so this car sold in one day. This car had just been listed. 2 hours after I saw the listing, it was gone, sold. And I'm like, but it didn't surprise me one bit. That thing was that I wouldn't call it a unicorn because it had a high price on it. And I don't know what year it was. I can't bring up the ad anymore. So that's just gone. And so I ended up going to look at the Subaru today. But it was nice because I got all that. You know, it's stressful when you go buy a car. And now that I went to a dealer, haggled with them, turned around and was like, I'll just ride my bike home. Haha. And I mean, they played all those games. They tried rubbing boobies in my face and everything. Like I'm at the strip club trying to get me to pay for a lap dance, and I wouldn't buy it. I'm like, I can see all the titties from the bar. I'm good. I don't need to pay for a lap dance. And but they tried everything to get me to buy this car, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. And I just kept thinking every time they would disappear and go behind the door, I'm like, now they're all right. I think I got no. They wouldn't budge. They wouldn't budge by $1. And that kind of pissed me off. So I was like, all right, especially the whole booby thing. Like, we're going to have this cute senorita come in here and try to seduce you and try to play. We're going to pretend we're Hooters and we're trying to get you to buy more wings or whatever. No, come on. Like, no, I'm not going. I'm like, are you going to throw in a happy ending here, or am I just going to go home? I just went home because my last relationship made me immune to the seduction tactics of these whores. So we're good. I got nothing. I got no. In fact, that pissed me off. It was funny. It made me laugh. And I'm sitting there trying not to laugh at them. But I'm like, I just realized at some point, I'm like, man, I was hoping I didn't have to ride my bike home, but here we are. Sheesh, I would try to find the right private owner to buy something. It's easier when you have a car already, is all I'm saying. If I was in Pennsylvania, I wouldn't go to a dealer. I would just bounce. I mean, I would go either or. I bought my Mini Cooper at a dealer, but I looked at a bunch of private seller cars before I went and bought the Mini Cooper, and all these private seller cars were junk, and I didn't like it. Just didn't work. And the private sellers were just as hard to haggle with as the dealers were. But at least I was in Pennsylvania, number one. I had my own vehicle, number two. So any paperwork and crap I have to do to drive around and get done, I can do. And number three, I know how the system works there. So I know what I have to do. I know where I've got to go, and I know how to do it. Here in Texas, I'm flying blind. I've got a bicycle. If I've got to go to all these different places to do all this paperwork and BS, I'm going to have to do it on a bicycle. I don't know what I'm in for. All I know is that to change my driver's license from New York to Texas took 3 months. 3 months. That should have been 5 minutes, but instead it took 3 months. And so I'm looking at that and I'm like, you know what? There's always a trade-off. There's always a trade-off. I know for a fact you can buy from a private seller and get a better deal. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. But not every not every car that you get at a dealership is crap either. So I've done both. I've raped dealers over the coals to get good deals before, but you just got to be stubborn. That's the key. JS says, the good thing is that you're not buying in desperation. My second car was desperate, and I ended up with a crappy deal. It's easy for me to armchair advise, but yeah, car shopping is stressful, especially when you don't have a car. And those two comments go hand in hand. And so since we're on this topic for the show, I'll give you two stories that are right in line with your two comments, both JS and Moonshine. The first one, I had a Jeep Cherokee. I've told this story a million times. You probably heard it if you've been on this channel. The short version of the story was I owned a Jeep Cherokee that I loved. One of my favorite vehicles of all time. Old XJ Cherokee from 1996. Freaking indestructible vehicle, but it was stolen. It was in a high-speed police chase. The robbers crashed it into a curb that totally destroyed the under frame of the car. And it caught on fire, and it took the firefighters about 20 minutes to half an hour to show up and put the fire out. And then when I went to get it out of the impound lot, they wanted to charge me $150 to tow it from where it was parked to the front of the impound lot so that I could have a tow truck come and take it from there. And I was like, the fuck no. I'm like, give me the keys. Fuck you. I took the keys and I went back, and I didn't need the keys because I took a screwdriver and I just went, started right up, and I drove that thing off the lot, but it was all over the place and it was destroyed. I drove it from the back of the impound lot to the front, and then I had a tow truck come and get it. And so I was desperate. I was desperate because I needed a car and I needed to be able to go to my job. And I was relying on my girlfriend at the time. She had a car, but I had to get a car within less than a week. And so I went to a dealership. They had a 2006 Jeep Liberty with only 30,000 miles on it. And because I was in no position to haggle, I paid the sticker price. And because my credit was bad at the time, I got a horrible, horrible loan. Horrible interest. I don't even want to talk about it. It's embarrassing how much I was paying for this car. I had no choice. I got raked over the coals with this deal. And my payments were high, like $400 something a month. And I didn't like it. I would say within a month of owning this Liberty, and it was the nice Liberty with the trail rated badge and the off-road package. Like, it was the nicest Liberty Renegade that they made. Not the Jeep Renegade, but the Liberty had a Renegade package, and that was like the Rubicon of Wrangler. That was like the Rubicon of a Liberty at the time. So it was the nicest one, but it wasn't. I hated the transmission. I hated the way it shifted. There were all kinds of things would break on this thing all the time that would be like a 50-cent piece of plastic that should have been made out of metal. And then you'd have to pay $400, $500 to get it fixed because of the labor. And then they replace it with another piece of plastic that's just going to break again. And I'm like, these cheap ass scumbags. I hated this thing. This one day, I go to get my mail, and I was getting a big check in the mail for some things. And I look up from the mailbox, holding the check in my hand. I look up and I see drip, 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 drip coming from my transmission on this Liberty. And I'm like, son of a, the Liberty was not, I would buy a Cherokee right now. If I could find one, that's one of the private sales that I keep looking for, but the good ones are $5,000 and up. I would buy one of those right now. If I found the right one, boom, it's done. I would do it. I would not hesitate to buy a 96 to 2000 Cherokee. And all of the ones that you see are all decked out and modified, but some of them are beat to hell. And they all got 200,000 miles or more, but they want 5,000 and up. So it's I don't know. But the engine in that thing, you'll never kill it. You could never kill an engine in one of those. Those engines will go when the apocalypse comes, the only two things that'll survive are cockroaches and the engines from those Jeep Cherokees from that time. Those are the two things that'll still work. So the Liberty was on its way out. And so I like you said, when you're desperate, I got took advantage of because I was desperate. And I got this thing, I'm way over my head on the payments, and it just sucked. It never left me stranded anywhere. It never broke down to where I couldn't get home. It wasn't like a lemon, but it sucked. And it always got worse. One day I go to shift into four-wheel drive, and it's a analog transfer case with a lever, no push button crap, but it has a cable. And I pull the handle and ping, it breaks. At least I was stuck in two-wheel drive instead of being stuck in four-wheel drive, because that is, that's easier to deal with. But it was a 50-cent piece of plastic, and they had to rip the whole interior apart to get to it. It was like $400 to fix. And that was at a backyard mechanic kind of place, small transmission shop, because my mechanic wouldn't even do it. He's like, oh, that's going to be a pain in my ass. I'm not even touching that. Yeah, quality is bad on new cars. That's why I'm like, a mid-90s car, like that 99 Mercedes, I'm like, that's probably more reliable than any of the new stuff out there now. even if there's some problems with it for being a 30-year-old car, it might not be that bad. Mid-90s was a not bad period in cars. There are a lot of cars from the mid-90s that I still see on the road today everywhere I go. Like the Hondas, the Toyotas, the Jeeps, different ones. Jeeps are kind of people collect and baby their Jeeps sometimes. Other people abuse the hell out of them and drive them through rivers and creeks. I would have never got rid of my Wrangler. So, next story, desperation, you get taken advantage of. Flip side, I'm getting rid of this Liberty. I still owed $3,000 on the note. I still owed that money, but I had a check in my hand. I have money in the bank. So I went and I went on a 3-hour drive to look at an old Wrangler. And the guy thought I wasn't going to leave empty-handed. It was a private seller. And this was a beautiful Wrangler. It came from Florida. This thing was a showpiece. It was like heavily modified. This thing was nice, like one of the nicest Wranglers I've ever seen. And it was an old YJ with the rounded doors. It was an older one, but it was a beautiful, beautiful vehicle. And we went around, we were like $1,000 apart. And I was like, I'm going to go home. And he was like, really? You're going to go home? And I'm like, yeah. But see, if I had bought it, I would have had to keep my Liberty, because this Jeep was too tricked. I wouldn't be able to drive this Jeep on the highway to go like long trips and distance, because it just wouldn't go fast. And so I'm like, that's the thing with Wranglers. If you get a Wrangler that's all lifted up and beefed up, then forget about going down the highway. You're not. That's the thing. They're not the engines aren't powerful enough to begin with. And as soon as you double the size of the wheel, you're not going anywhere. I mean, you can go in the mud and you can have fun and you can do Jeep shit, but you're not going down the highway at 90 miles an hour. And so I waited. I skipped on that one. Toyota FJ Cruiser pops up for $13,000. Had about 130,000 miles on it. And I was like, I don't know. That's a lot of miles. I know those things last a long time. But I was kind of thinking about going to look at it. And so I passed. And turns out in 2020, when I was looking for my pickup truck, I kept seeing these FJ Cruisers. Now they have 250,000 miles on them, and their asking prices were $30,000. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. But Toyota discontinued the FJ Cruiser, and all people went crazy for them. People wanted them so bad, because as soon as you tell these rich people you can't have this, now they want it even more. And so there was this period where if I bought that FJ Cruiser for $13,000 and put 100,000 miles on it, I could have sold it for twice what I paid for it. And but whatever, that's, hindsight's always 20/20, they say. But I waited and I waited and I waited, and all of a sudden a Jeep Wrangler pops up in a dealership in Cleveland. And I forget what they want. They wanted like 22,000 for it. It was a 2008 Wrangler with 20,000 miles on it, but it was 2016. So this thing was 8 years old and had 20,000 miles on it. I'm like, yo. And they wanted like 22,000 for it. And so, but I had leverage. I wasn't desperate anymore. And this is the difference. The Liberty I got taken advantage of, but now I got the upper hand because I'm not desperate and I don't care. So I start emailing this dealer. And I'm like, I forget what the first number was. I emailed them. They emailed me back. No way. You're out of your mind. We keep going back. And I'm like, I don't care how you do the numbers, but I want to write a check for $15,000 and go home with the Wrangler. You can keep my Liberty and pay it off. So give me $5,000 in trade for the Liberty and come down to whatever, $17,000 on the Wrangler. 8, 9, 20. Yeah, it was five. I got, so they wanted $22,000 for this Wrangler. And I got it for 17. But it took 3 weeks of emailing these people. Every 2 or 3 days, they'd send me an email. How about this? I'd say, no. How about this? And it would be the same. It was the same thing I kept asking for. I said, give me $5,000 in trade on my Liberty, which I owe $3,000. So that's $2,000 equity towards the vehicle. And then take $5,000 off the price so that I bring the Liberty and a check for 15 grand and I drive home with the Wrangler. And I just kept saying that over and over for 3 freaking weeks. And I was just laughing because I wasn't expecting this to happen. They kept coming back with a new offer. I'd say no. And I'd do the Rick Harrison, like Pawn Stars. I would give them the exact same. I want $5,000 for my Liberty and I want to pay 15 grand and leave with the Jeep. How's that? We can't do that. They come back again with another one. And I just keep saying the same thing over and over for 3 weeks. Finally, they go, okay, here's what we're going to do. We'll give you $5 grand in trade for your Liberty, and we'll mark the Jeep down to 17,000. You can write a check for 15,000, but we're going to sell the vehicle as is. We're not even going to give you a 30-day warranty. You're going to drive it off the lot, and whatever happens, happens. It's not our problem anymore. And so that was the deal we came. The thing's got 20,000 miles on it. So I'm like, all right, I'll come up. I'll take a look at it. I'll take it on a test drive. If everything checks out, we're going to get this done. And so it's Cleveland's a 2-hour drive. So I go up there with my Liberty, and they take the Liberty and they go do their 15-point inspection or whatever. You know, they're looking it over. And they come back and they're like, okay, we'll do it. I had already taken the Jeep out on a test drive. The thing was brand new. This Jeep Wrangler sat in, I saw the records. This thing sat in a guy's garage in Pittsburgh for 8 years. And he took it out during the summer and drove around with the top down. 20,000 miles. The tires still had the mold marks from the molds at the factory. They still had the fringy things on the tires. 20,000 miles on this car, this Jeep. And I got it for 17,000 flat. No, all in taxes, title, fees, whatever. I'm like, I'm not writing a check for $15,000 and 1 cent. I'm going to give you 15 grand and I'm going to leave with this. And I had to make a call to my insurance and have them fax the card and, you know, all that. But I went in there at like 9 a.m. I drove my Jeep home, my Wrangler home at noon. And that was honestly, other than the XJ Cherokee, that 2008 Wrangler was the most reliable vehicle I ever owned. That thing never gave me a problem. That thing was awesome. I'm driving that thing around for like the first 2 years that I owned it, and everybody thought that it was a brand new Jeep that I had just bought off the showroom floor because the thing was in such good condition. But that was the difference between... And the Kelley Blue Book value on that Jeep was like 22,000. I got them down $5 grand just by being a dick for 3 weeks. I was an asshole. And I'm like, and it all went through email. I didn't drive up there until I had the deal. I wasn't going to go up there and haggle 2 hours away We did it all back and forth with email for 3 weeks, and finally they said, all right, do it. They want to get rid of it. It was a big dealership, and they wanted to get rid of it because it had been there for a few weeks. They thought it would go fast. It didn't, whatever. They're like, they got this guy. Screw it. Let's get rid of it. They probably made a profit off of it. They probably screwed over the guy who traded it in. So they probably still did fine. And, but they couldn't sell me an extended warranty. They couldn't do any of the stuff that they like to do. I was just a hard ass, like hardball, and I just wouldn't budge. And they were just like, all right, we'll get it off our lot. But I had nothing to lose. That was the key. I just went up there because we had already worked out a deal. And if they had turned on the deal and changed it on me, I would have just went home. I had no, but that's the difference between not being desperate and basically saying, screw you, I got nothing to lose. I'm just having fun now. I'm just messing with you because I can. I don't have to take this home with me today. And it's a whole different experience, and you will win most of the time if you can do that. I got all kinds of car buying stories. I'm not like the Vin Wiki guy on YouTube buying Lamborghinis and crap like that, but I have lots and lots of funny stories about car dealers, and I've screwed over more car dealers that have screwed me over. if we're gonna keep score. I took a Grand Am when I bought my Cherokee. I had a Grand Am that was so bad and falling apart, I didn't even think I was going to be able to get home. And I was on my way 2 hours away from Pittsburgh to go look at a Wrangler somewhere. And on the side of the road, there was this bright blue Cherokee all up on a rock, kind of, like they do with the Jeeps to make them look cool. And I'm like, man, that's a badass looking Jeep. And I just kept going. And this Wrangler that I looked at, it was a private seller. It was bunk. I was like, no, I can't do this. I turned around and I didn't even know if I was going to get home. I had to go pick up my daughter from her mother's house. And I stopped at that dealership that had that Cherokee. They wanted like $6,000 for it. It had 100 and something thousand miles on it, but it looked brand new. This thing looked brand spanking new. I got them to sell it to me for $5,000 and give me $1,000 for my broken down Pontiac Grand Am that I didn't even know. Like, I didn't even know, like they didn't take it for a test drive, thank God. Because I didn't even know if I was going to get home. The transmission was bucking and shuddering and like slipping, and I didn't even know if this car was going to get me home. And so I'm just like, roll the dice. I pull into this dealership. And when it came down to where all I had to pay was $4,000, I had the money in the bank, and I was like, oh man, I can do this. I just wrote the check, got my insurance switched over, went and picked up my daughter about an hour later. My daughter's like, what's going on, Dad? You got a new truck. So let's see, lots of comments. I've talked to a guy in a new Tundra a month ago. Gave him a thumbs up. He looked at me and said, it's a lemon. I've heard that Toyotas are going bad now. I've heard other people say they've had bad Toyotas lately. He said it's a lemon. I couldn't believe it. Transmission, funky electrical. The electrical stuff, that's the problem with these new vehicles now. The electronics and all the BS, like okay, like I look at these Teslas and the door handles in the door, and what, you got to have like an app on your phone to get the fucking handle to pop out so you can open the door. And then like what happens if your phone's battery, like that's just another thing to break. Like my Jeep had a button on the door. You just bonk, you open it up, and it opens the door. You don't need a freaking app on your phone or a special thing on your keychain or whatever to get the stupid door to open. And every time I see all this technology and garbage, that it's just like, oh great, another thing to break. And what does that cost? $1,000. And plus those stupid subscription services in cars now. Last week we were talking about the Volkswagen horsepower subscription. And if you find a way to circumvent that, do you know if you find a way to disable those subscriptions on the crap that you buy, the thing that you own, that's a federal crime, 5 years in federal prison for that. And take it from me, if the federal government comes at you and arrests you, you're guilty. See, some of y'all think that you got rights and things like that, like this Constitution thing they talk about and all that. No, you don't. You don't have rights, that's for sure. When you're arrested by the federal government, you're guilty, and you sit in jail as long as they want you to. That's it. I sat in jail for 14 months before I ever saw the inside of a courtroom. And when I was in that jail waiting for my pre-trial, your right to a speedy trial, bullshit. There were people sitting in that jail for 6 years waiting for their speedy trial. Six years sitting in that jail wondering what's going to happen to them. And what happens is they'll make you sit in pre-trial for the length of your sentence. And then if you decide to go to trial and you lose, you're probably going to go to prison for even longer. But when they've had you sit there for as long as they want you to sit there, then they'll say, oh, here's a plea deal. If you sign here and say you're guilty, you'll get to go home. We'll give you time served and you can go home. Or in my case, they're like, we'll give you 3 more months where you go to Club Fed and play pickleball all day and go to spinning class and play outside and play sports and go to church and read books at the library for 3 or 4 months, and then you can go home. There's no right. That's a bunch of crap. Especially when it comes to if you got arrested by the federal government for jaywalking, that would be about 1.5 years in federal prison, but you would probably just sit and rot in some county jail for 14 months while you wait for your sentencing date. And if you want to go to trial, your public defender is going to be like, well, that's going to take us about 2 years to get all the stuff together that we need to do, because your public defender's juggling 50 cases and your public defender gets paid by the government about 10 grand for every case that they're juggling. But the prosecutor has a budget of unlimited funds to prosecute you. And so what they do is they drain your bank account and they make it so that you can't fight them. I don't even know how I'm going down this road. We're talking about cars. If you disable the subscription stuff in your car, they can charge you with a federal crime that's punishable by 5 years in prison for turning off the subscription. So if you want to get your extra 20 horsepower out of your Volkswagen and you go and hack into it and do it, they can charge you with a federal crime for that. So not only do you not own your car, if you go and fix your own car, the car that you own, you can go to prison for fixing your own freaking car. Like, what kind of bullshit is that? Like, where are we now? Like, is it really that bad in North Korea? Sometimes I wonder, because I mean, on American TV, they want us to think North Korea is a hellhole. But what if you actually go there and it's like paradise? And it's like not at all what they told. And maybe we're the ones that are the prisoners and we're living in this dystopian hellhole, and it's actually free over there, but they've got us all brainwashed into thinking it's some oppressive dictatorship. And, I think that the truth is somewhere in the middle there, but it does make you wonder, especially when you've been through and seen some of the things I have. What really, America is the land of the free. Yeah, get out of here. Land of the free. You're not even free to fix your own car without being charged with a federal crime. Pulling the tag in your mattresses was a federal crime. Yeah. I mean, the government would have to come to your house and, but who knows? Will the FBI drive a tank through your front door because you hacked into your Volkswagen and got 20 extra horsepower without paying for the subscription? I don't know what they'll do. But they'll drive a tank into your house for social media posts. So I wouldn't put it past them. Like the FBI warning on the VHS cassette, everybody had the dual 2 VCRs, or they had the dual cassette deck. Like, did the FBI really ever raid anybody's house for making an extra copy of of E.T. I don't know. But, I know that they've raided people for like bootlegging on a mass scale. But if you were bringing home movies from Blockbuster, dropping them in your DVD ripper, making a copy of it and sending it right back, or Netflix, Netflix, man, you'd get 3 DVDs, you could stick them in your computer, so I've been told, and go zip, 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 and then send them right back, and you've got 3 more movies in your media server, if that's what you do. And you could just keep doing that week after. You could go to the library, the public library, and get like the whole all 9 seasons of Lost on DVD and be like zip, 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 take them back a week later and watch them when you want. Did the FBI bust anybody for making their home movie collection grow? I don't know. But I know that they would raid people who were, running servers, and, if you've got a huge collection of media on the Pirate Bay, they might come after you, but I don't know. Yeah, I made 50 copies in the early 90s from VHS rentals. I should get 145 years in jail. I mean, they might, if it's 5 years per count and you've got 50 counts. I mean, what's 50 times 5? That's about, what is that? That's more than that. 50 times 5, I can't even do the math today. That's 250 years in jail if they give them to you consecutive. But if you plead guilty to all 50 counts and they give you a concurrent sentence of 5 years, when your next employer goes to run a background check, they're going to see that you were convicted of 50 felonies. So that's the problem. That's what my problem is. I didn't take the deal because I thought, my lawyer thought I could go home and get time served. But the difference was, if I took the deal, they would have only charged me with 2 counts. So instead, in order to roll the dice and be able to go home sooner, I had to plead guilty to all 14 counts. So now when an employer looks up my background check, 14 counts of this felony, holy shit, he's a mass murderer. He's worse than Charlie Manson. We can't hire this guy. Fuck him. So that's what I'm dealing with right now. But this time went by fast, and all we did was, I'm glad we all know what's going on this week, and I'm kind of glad we didn't want to talk about it because I'm kind of burned out from it, and I know you are too. And I'm sure you've all seen that from 50 different angles and all the close-ups and far away shots and everything else that you can call up on Twitter in about 3 seconds of searching. But it's just another example of, gee, how could somebody get so worked up that they go and mouth off on Twitter to the point where the FBI comes and drives a tank into their front door? And all I can say is, well, have you been watching the news since 2020? It might be enough to make you mad. And so I'll just, I'm not saying that what I did was right, but if people ask me this question all the time about how did you get so angry that you went and said those things on social media? And my answer to that question is, how can you not be that mad these days anymore? And yeah, maybe I should have kept the inside words from going outside and just made them inside words that you say to your friends, and not said things to everybody out there that they could use against me. But yeah, when it happened, I didn't know. I wasn't watching the news on Tuesday. I didn't want to. And a friend of mine texted me and said, "Oh my God, did you hear what happened?" And I'm like, "No." Took it on the keyboard. Oh my God. And so I'm like, and so then that turned into a whole conversation. And then I kind of felt shitty going to bed last night. And I remember in 2020, I had a real hard time sleeping when all this COVID scam started, March, April, May. It wasn't until like late in the summer that I could get a good night's sleep anymore, because I was just waiting for the ball to drop. Because we're in a civil war. People are like, part of the reason they put me in prison was because I was talking about how we're in a civil war. And I'm like, well, we are. Look around, watch the news, like pay attention. We've been in one since before 2020, but you can say that it's been on since 2020. And JS says that UK comedian was arrested for 3 tweets. Yeah, in the UK. I'm on some of these message boards. So when I talk about people, and I don't want to, I did this last week and I said, I've been treated worse by Republicans than Democrats. And most people would be surprised by that because you'd think, oh, MAGA sticks together. No, they don't. They don't. MAGA's for themselves. They don't give a crap. If you are in a group of Republican friends and something like that happens to you, those Republican friends are gone. They're never going to talk to you again. And that's kind of what happened to me. And even since I've been home, some of the people that have treated me the worst since I came home are hardcore Republicans, not Democrats. And in fact, some of the people who've treated me really good are Democrats. I had this one hardcore Democrat, tell me, I don't believe what they did to you. That's bullshit. That scares the crap out of me, because if they could do that to you, what can they do to the rest of us? And she's like, and I don't want you to go around believing that we agree. She's like, we do not agree on pretty much anything when it comes to politics. She's like, but I don't agree with what they did to you. And that happens to me a lot. And there's a lot of Republicans that come out when they know what happened and they're like, wow, that's crazy. That's bullshit. That shouldn't have happened to you, et cetera, et cetera. But I would say 75% of the time, if I run into a Republican and tell them, and they know what happened, the response is more like, well, you're stupid. That you shouldn't have done that, huh? You got what you deserved, you dumb motherfucker. And that's the attitude that I get from MAGA. The Trump supporters, that's how they treat me. And so, and a lot of Democrats are like, haha, you idiot. Just like, there's a lot of Democrats out there cheering about today or about what happened on Tuesday. They're all, yay. And, me and some people, because that pisses me off. But if I'm being 100% honest, and most people aren't, because a lot of these people, like, let's talk about Cat Turd on Twitter. He's angry, and anytime he finds a liberal celebrating that this guy got shot, he posts it for all to see, and then he's trying to get them all fired from their jobs. And I'm like, Cat Turd, if we were talking outside of the litter box and nobody could hear what we're saying, and let's just suppose Hillary Clinton was sitting in that chair and all of a sudden, bang, bunch of blood comes shooting out of her neck and she falls down to the ground and drops. Don't tell me you wouldn't be celebrating. You would. Cat Turd would be throwing a fucking party, Turd Fest. It would be like, yeehaw! And they'd all be drinking their Bud Light and shooting guns up in the air and cheering and screaming and stomping their cowboy boots on and all that. They'd be having a good time. And so I was talking about that with people. I'm like, if that was her or certain other people, I wouldn't be like, I'd be like, oh well. I would not be making TikTok videos going, hooray! This right here, what I'm doing right now is about as much, and I'm just saying it makes me an asshole. But I'm admitting it. I'm admitting that if it was the other side, I would be like, oh darn. And so I'm just saying that, like, I am not as upset at the liberals doing what they're doing and celebrating and dancing in the streets and all that bullshit as some of the hardcore Republicans and the MAGAs are, because I know that if the script was flipped, it would be the opposite. And Twitter would be full of Republicans going, yay, fuck Hillary Clinton, and, all of that. It would be the opposite. And there would be plenty of people cheering if that was her sitting in that chair and not that guy. So, and I'm not even saying that I'd be innocent of that. I probably would have watched that video 100 times instead of like a handful of times. And I'm not a big fan of the Democrats, but I'm smart enough to know that if that were to, it doesn't matter who it is. That's what they want us to fight with each other. They want us to be killing each other because that's the people that own this country, the people that are in charge of America, the people that own America, the people that own us. They want us to go to war with each other because that's how they're going to consolidate their power over us. It's almost like Emperor Palpatine, right? Emperor Palpatine built up this droid army and then started using it to enslave planets in the Republic. And so then Emperor Palpatine had to build up a clone army so that the clone army could fight the droid army. But he was in charge of both armies. He built both. He orchestrated the whole thing himself. He was in charge of that. He was the Sith Lord in charge of the droid army, the Separatists, and he was in charge of the clone army as Chancellor of the Republic. And the whole thing was just a ploy to get the people fighting with each other so that he could just gobble up all the power for himself. And also because two Sith Lords can't beat the whole Jedi Order on their own, they would get killed. But if I make this droid army, and then I have to make this even more powerful clone army to fight the droids, now these clones, I can program them to, when the Jedis have their backs turned to them, we can wipe out the Jedi in one day. And so the whole thing was orchestrated from when Emperor Palpatine was a senator from Naboo. He came up with this whole plot on how to enslave the entire galaxy by starting a war where everybody's fighting with each other and going to war against each other, but he's orchestrating it from both sides. So what do we have here in America? We probably have some oligarchs whose names you don't know, who have riled up this side, get them all riled up and start shooting everybody, get this other side all riled up and start killing them back, and then but it's whoever's at the top is the same person orchestrating the whole thing. And they're just doing it because they want us to go to war with ourselves so that at the end of the day, they can just buy up all the property on the cheap and they can take the whole thing over, and they can say, well, we've got to create this totalitarian regime and put our foot down on everybody to keep you safe. If we don't take all your guns, this is going to happen again. You know, if we don't take away all your freedom, then you're going to have the freedom to go and do all this again. And they're just going to eat away at your rights that you already don't have, but they're going to make it so that you don't even think that you have them anymore, because you don't even, like, they're not even going to pretend that you have rights at that point, because, like, so right now you don't have rights, but they still pretend that you do and tell you. They got this constitution that you can go look at, and it says a bunch of crap, and it doesn't matter what it says because it doesn't mean anything anymore, but it's still there in Washington in a glass case, and you can go look at it. And these old people, these old slave owners, they signed it and said that you're free, except for the blacks. And but now they're just going to be like, oh, we're getting rid of that. They'll take it when they take those out of the museum and it's not there anymore, and they just pretend it's like, no, that was a mistake. Look what happened when we gave people all those rights. They went to war with each other, and so we had to crack down on that. And so that's what's going on right now. So I'm not saying that, like, I don't know where this is going, because, I mean, if people keep getting shot, I mean, who's the side of this fight that has all the guns? It's not the Democrats. So if a bunch of trannies go batshit crazy and start shooting people all the time, at some point, the gun owners of America, the Republicans, are finally going to have enough. They're going to say, you know what, fuck this, and we're done. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it's not going to end well for anybody. But I don't know what the answers are anymore. It's not like your vote counts. I don't know. I think this country's done. I don't know how we went from talking about buying a car to America's done. But, well, it actually, the stepping stone was you don't own your car and you have to pay for a subscription to open your door and heat your seats and get 20 extra horsepower of turbo from your Volkswagen engine. And then all of a sudden it became America's in a civil war and we're done. But yeah, I mean, that's about how far away we are from being done. And we're just, I mean, you'll own nothing and be happy, they say, eat bugs. Bill Gates got some new butter company where he turns human poop into butter now. And I'm like, what are they going to call it? What am I going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to see this package that says, I can't believe it's butter? Like, is that what they're going to call it now? I don't even know, man. Moonshine Fuel says it's a reset. The currency is dying and there's no easy answers. It will take course over decades. Resets are not like light switches on and off. They take time. Yeah, I say this all the time. In 1930, so the history of the United States is basically the history of the central bank. We had the first central bank, Alexander Hamilton, which was defeated in 1811. And then, boom, you have the War of 1812. And then they start the second central bank of the United States, which Andrew Jackson defeated, at which point they tried to kill him, but the guns didn't fire. And, we can talk about that. Andrew Jackson killed the bank and they couldn't bring it back until 1913. So in 1913, they're like, oh, just let us run the economy. We're the smart guys on Jekyll Island. We're the rich ones anyway. Well, let us run everything for you. And we'll just charge you interest for the loans that we make you from the money we don't even loan you. That we'll just make it up. And so now $1, the last time I looked, $1 or what you could buy for 2 pennies in 1913 now costs $1. And I think now that the dollar of 1913 is only worth a penny now. So that's 99. The dollar's lost 99% of its value since these people took over the dollar. Okay, so my question is this basic shit. If you hired a financial advisor to handle your 401k or your IRA or your WD-40 or whatever the hell you have, and your financial advisor lost 99% of the value of your portfolio, at what point would you say, okay, you're fired? How would you have fired them after it dropped by 20%? Would you have fired them after 50% was gone? Would you wait until it's 99% gone? That's what we're doing. We basically let these people take over our dollar in 1913, and now about 100 years later and some change, it's worth 1% of what it was. 99% of the value of your stock portfolio is gone. And we're like, no, they know what they're doing. They're the smart ones. They're the ones that run the economy. Our economy wouldn't work without them. Like, get the fuck out of here. When do we fire them? When it's 99.99999% gone, and it's just like, and $1 is worth like a Bitcoin. A Bitcoin right now is worth what, $100,000? So like when it gets to the point where a Bitcoin is $50 million, and a Bitcoin isn't even a real thing. I can't pay rent with a Bitcoin. I can't pay my car payment with a Bitcoin. I don't even know how to turn a Bitcoin into money, but some people do, I guess. I don't even know how that shit works. Nobody does. But somehow a Bitcoin is worth $100,000 now, and nobody even knows what a Bitcoin is. And so that tells you how worthless the American dollar is, because if the American dollar was worth something, nobody would want a freaking Bitcoin. That's not even a thing. It's like, what is it? It's a file on a fucking hard drive. Some guy has been, I read a news article about a guy, he's been digging around in a landfill looking for an old hard drive for like 20 years, searching an entire landfill with 30 years of fucking garbage buried in it, looking for an old hard drive because he has so many Bitcoins on this hard drive, it's worth like $1 billion. And I'm like, what is a fucking Bitcoin? Nobody even knows what it is. It's just a bunch of fucking digits on a file. It's like a fucking JPEG. At least you can look at a picture. If I had a JPEG, it's the same thing as a Bitcoin, but it's a photograph. It's something you can at least look at. It should be worth. Why aren't my photographs worth $1 billion, for crying out loud? Why can't I just say, oh, my photographs are Bitcoins? It's ridiculous. Some people know how Bitcoin works. Yeah, some people do. I have a friend who paid off his house he started mining Bitcoins before anybody knew what they were. And he had a mine in his basement. So I do know more than I'm letting on, but he had a Bitcoin mine in his basement and he cut a hole in the floor of his basement, and the heat from his Bitcoin mine in the basement came up through the register and it heated his house in the winter. And his electric bill went through the roof. And back then, when he was doing this as a hobby, Bitcoins weren't worth anything. So he's got Bitcoins. And he went and cashed out some of his Bitcoins. He paid off his house. He bought some cars. He went on a fun money spree, and then the IRS came after him. But as far as I'm aware, he probably had enough Bitcoins to just go away, IRS, and threw some more Bitcoins at it. I don't know, but he had a bunch of shit. Ethereum, Bitcoin, and some of the other ones. He was playing around with that. And he was making some bank because he got in the party early. A Bitcoin when he was starting was like $1. So he probably had 20 fucking Bitcoins by the time it was said and done, and all of a sudden they're worth $100,000 a piece. Some people know how Bitcoin works. The only reason the dollar survived was because it was used as the oil reserve currency. Yeah. And that's the only reason that they were able to get away with removing the gold standard, to where it used to be where you could trade in your dollars and get some gold back. It was backed by gold. And, they were still manipulating it. But then they're like, forget it. It's just paper now. We don't need the gold anymore. And this is why electric bills are going through the roof. Yeah, did you ever wonder, you got the energy saver appliances, you got the LED light bulbs. It used to be a 120 watt light bulb, and now you've got a 5-watt light bulb for every bulb in your house. You got all the ugly ass LEDs that have horrible light and color casts and give you headaches and everything else. You turn your heat down. You got the energy saver refrigerator that barely ever works from Samsung and that you have to replace every 2 years, even though the GE that you bought in 1972 still works and it's in your basement still, and it works just fine. And you went and you did all this energy saver, everything. And now your electric bill is 4 times of what it used to be. Well, what the fuck? What would it be if you didn't get the light bulbs and the energy saver, this and that? You wouldn't even be able to, it'd be more than your mortgage. Yeah, the AI data centers are causing electricity to go up as well. They may as well why can't they use AI to figure out how to make the electricity cheaper? If we're paying all that money for the AI. My boomer bunch still thought the dollar was backed by gold until I popped that illusion. Yeah, and I still deal with the boomers that tell my kids, the Gen Z and the millennials, that you can't buy a house because you're lazy. And it's like, boomer, shut up. When you bought your house when you were 25 years old, your house cost $2,000 and a 6-pack of Bud Light. Now a house costs $400,000. And back when you bought your house for $6,000 and a pack of Bud Light, you were making like $30,000 a year. And now that same job, if you had that same job today, you'd make $35,000 a year, but the house costs $400,000 large. So yeah. Oh yeah, like these lazy ass kids. It's because they went to Starbucks last week and got a Frappuccino. That's why they can't afford to buy a house, because they're lazy and stupid and they spent money at Starbucks. If I was one of these millennials, that's all. I fuck it. Drink Starbucks and live happy and die, because you're never going to be able to afford a house unless you're rich, unless you get in with the Epstein Island crowd and make friends or whatever it takes. If you're a woman, you can, and you're hot, you can go find a 90-year-old boyfriend like Hugh Hefner, or what's that, the football coach that's got the 20-year-old girlfriend, Bill Belichick, whatever. That girl, that girl figured out how to buy a house. But for most of these kids, no. Like, what are they going to do? They got to go to college to be able to get a job that's more than minimum wage, and they got to get 400 grand in debt with college loans to do it. And then they get out of college, and now they got to save up for a $400,000 house that by the time they get out of college, that's going to be an $800,000 house. When does it end? Or they just wait until BlackRock buys all the houses in America and then rents them out to us for $8,000 a month. Yeah, it was tough being a Bitcoiner back then. It was really hammered on in the media and other problems around it back then. Yeah. And I just remember my friend who was doing it, and he's just a smart guy who is techie, and he was doing it for fun. He wasn't doing it because he thought it was going to make him rich. He was just, that's the kind of guy he is. And he just figured, well, if this thing does take off, it'll pay for all the money I spent on it and all the electric bills that I had to pay and everything else that went with it. And it did. But yeah, I mean, let's see. What other comments? I'm not eating bugs. Fuck them. They still, they still sell bugs as snacks at my 7-Eleven here in California now. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen crickets in the, like, if I'm going to get a Snickers. So if you're on food stamps and the Republicans don't want you buying junk food anymore with your food, like when I was on food stamps, I'm proud to say I got Ben and Jerry's, I had Snickers bars, I had candy bars, I don't like potato chips, so I didn't buy those. I bought subs, pizza. I was buying all kinds of stuff with my food stamps. Cheetos, you name it. Can you get bugs? Can you still buy bugs and crickets on food stamps, or did they take those off? Or are those considered healthy? Did the Republicans say that's okay? Eat bugs. No, I was eating good on your dime. But I wanted to eat healthy. That's the thing. But the thing is, I lived in a homeless shelter. And so when I started at the homeless shelter, you're not allowed to bring any food from the outside world at all. And they can search you when you walk in. Like they wouldn't search me hard because they liked me and they knew that I wasn't a drunk or anything. So they were just like, they would have to look through my bag once in a while and do like a pretend search. But I couldn't bring in a bag of Cheetos or anything like that. But they had a lot of food there. And they were feeding us meals every day. So, if I used my food stamps, I'd have to get something that I can't keep. I got to eat it before I bring it back. So that's part of the reason, for the Republicans that are all mad about people getting food stamps and being able to eat candy bars. They wouldn't let us cook at the shelter because the shelter was full of food and they cooked us all kinds of meals. And the meal, I mean, you weren't leaving the table hungry. I really don't have any I've said the bad things that I could say about being in the shelter. And there were bad things, but it was a good place with good people running it. There were certain things that got under my skin really hard. The food thing wasn't one of them. I just looked at it like I got some food stamps. So if I want to eat lunch or if I want to get a snack, I'll do that. But breakfast and dinner are at the homeless shelter. Or if I don't feel like going to the homeless shelter for dinner tonight, I can go. There was a place you could go get pizza with your EBT and things like that. But the Republicans, like, okay, moonshine. I think everyone should get food stamps when you have a government that's creating 3% inflation minimum per year. That yet the public can't keep pace with rising costs. There needs to be something. So I have no problem with it. I mean, how many people work at Walmart and Amazon and all these big corporations, and yet they're on welfare and food stamps because the company they work for won't pay them enough to eat food? So, like, that tells you something right there. But there's a lot of Republicans now that Elon Musk went and found all this government waste and whatnot. There's a lot of people that are angry about it. And they're like, well, we're going to stop these people from eating candy bars on my dime. And it's like, you know what? You're worried. This is a saying that I heard in prison all the time. You're worried about the wrong shit. They just spent $20 billion to study the mating habits of transgender squirrels in Siberia, but you're going to get mad that someone in the ghetto ate a Snickers bar on food stamps. Like, why don't we just get rid of the other waste? Like, I'm not worried about what people eat on their food stamps. If somebody wants to have 20 babies and live off of welfare and never get off their ass and go get a job, and the baby daddy's nowhere to be found and not taking care of the kids, and they're just living off the government dole and they don't have any ambition in life to get off of it, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, at some point, fuck them. I get it. Like, I'm okay with that. When I was on food stamps and getting my $100 a month cash assistance that I'm supposed to use to find a place to live, that's what they told me that was for. I'm like, oh, $100 a month. Yeah, in Jamestown, New York. Good luck. I don't even think I could find a cardboard box to live in for that. But whatever. In order to get that money, I had to show up at I had to show up at the county office every single Friday morning. I'd have to get there at 9:30. I'd have to get there at like 8:30. I think it started at 9. But you got to get there half an hour early, because if you get there at 9, there's going to be so many people in line that you're not going to get out of there until noon. So I'd get there at 8:30 every Friday morning on the dot and try to be the first one in line, because I've got to hand this thing of paper in and some printouts to a social worker and say, these are all the jobs I applied to this week. Here's all the job interviews I had. Here's who I interviewed with. Here's the phone numbers. Here's the email addresses. Here's what I did. Here's all the companies I contacted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I had to prove every single Friday that I was looking for a job. And if I didn't show up for just one of those, if I just decided not to go, they would have cut my food stamps. They would have cut my money. They would have taken me off the thing. And then I would have had to go back. I would have had to go through the whole process of signing up for it again and start all over from scratch. So I don't really know how people can have 10 babies and just get on food stamps and like just stay home buying candy bars and Cheetos and feeding Doritos to 10 babies and on food stamps and not have to go get a job. Like, I don't know, like, how do you get out of going down there on Friday? Like, how do you get out of that and just collect the money for 10 years or whatever? I don't get that, because there was a limit even. Like, how long I could collect it was limited. Like, you have until such and such time to find a job, figure it out, or you're off. You don't get any more money. And it was a certain number of weeks. Or you get to that limit, you get to that certain number of weeks, and then you got to apply for this and that. It wasn't like it was just given to me. So I don't even understand when people are like, oh, those freeloaders. But I don't understand, because I know a lot of illegal immigrants would come into the country and they're getting like a free room at the Waldorf Astoria, and they're getting an EBT card preloaded with $20,000 in food stamps on it, and they're getting another $6,000 to $10,000 cash assistance just for showing up at the door. But an American citizen, being homeless, an American citizen, I was getting $100 a week in food stamps and about $100 a month in cash assistance. So it was $400 a month in food stamps plus another $100 that you can spend on whatever you want. So I was getting like $500 a month. So the whole time I was homeless, I took about $2,000 from everybody. But when you look at how much did I pay in taxes for 25 to 30 years of my life before I became homeless? I was just getting some of my money back. So screw you all. I paid for my cash assistance and I paid for my food stamps. So I should have been able to eat whatever I want, because I paid for it. I prepaid for my own cash assistance and food stamps years ago. So It used to not be like that, and it's different when you have dependents. I believe that. But I can understand, like, even if you have one kid and you're on welfare, cash assistance, whatever, if you go get a, no, so number one, if you go get a job, this is how screwed up the system is. You go get a job, you lose your cash assistance and you lose your food stamps because now you got a job, but daycare so that you can go to your job is like $300 a week and you're not even making $400 a week at your job. So like you're worse off. That's why people do this, because if you go get a job and you got kids and you don't have somebody to watch the kids for free, like mom or your somebody to, you can't just pass them off to grandma for the day while mommy goes to work, then you're worse off going to get a job if all you can find is like minimum wage, or if you're working at a bakery like me, even if you're full time, I'm not making enough money to pay for daycare. If I had to shell out $300 a week to put my kids in daycare so I could go work at a bakery to make $400 a week, and then after taxes and all that bullshit, I get $50. I got to pay my rent, my bills, my car payment, my car insurance, my electric, and every other, and put food on the table for $50 a week. Or I can sit at home and do nothing and get hundreds of dollars from the government to put food. And okay, sure, like that's a no-brainer. So, where do we go? What do we do? I don't know. There's no easy answer. If I'm just being real, like I said, I don't really agree with letting people just sit on their ass and get free money all day. But I understand what they're going to, I understand what's going to happen on the flip side of that equation. I've been there. I wasn't making minimum wage, but I had a daughter that I had to put in daycare when I was younger, and I had to shop around, and it was tough. But I found a daycare around the corner from where I worked. I could take her there while I went to work, and then I could go pick her up for lunch. I could go into the daycare around noon, pick her up, take her out to lunch, drop her back off, go back to my job. It was like a block away, but it was still like $150 a week, and I don't remember what I was making. But it was hurting. I was like, holy shit! If I was making minimum wage, I wouldn't even be able to do that. Minimum wage back then was like $5 an hour, $4.25 maybe. I don't remember. It was at $4.25 for a long time, and then it started to creep up with inflation. But like I say, free market is deflationary. We don't live in a free market. No, we live in you've got two systems and they both suck. One's communism, socialism, where the government owns everything and it's supposed to be distributed equally among the people. But what happens? The people at the top take it all and they throw some crumbs at the peasants and say, here you go, get out of here. Give them enough money for their bread and circus and they'll leave you alone. And now, the people at the top of the communist pyramid, they live pretty damn good, but the peasants don't live good at all. But here we are in America where we're in capitalism, but the problem with American capitalism is we're not doing anything to stop people from having abusive monopolies. So, back in the day, we broke up the Ma Bell, ill communication, Ma Bell, the Bell Telephone Company that, we broke them up. We didn't let them have a monopoly anymore. And now you've got three phone companies that are basically the same thing. But they broke up the gas companies, Standard Oil. They had to break them up. And so they were a bunch of different companies. But now, okay, well, let's talk about the phone companies. Now you got three phone companies. So there's competition, but all three, okay, Verizon sucks donkey balls, AT&T sucks horse nuts, and Verizon sucks cat turds. They all suck. Every single time you call customer service to any of these, what do you get? Hello, thank you for calling AT&T. right? You like I pressed 1 for English and you're not even speaking English. Like what's going on here? You don't get customer service. They tell you they don't care about you. And they know, okay, fine, leave Verizon and go to AT&T and see how that works out for you. Oh, they suck too. And then you go to all 3 of them and they all suck. And they're all exactly the same and they're just no difference. How could that be if there's competition? Well, look at who owns the companies, right? Because they're all publicly traded companies. And what do you find? You find BlackRock, the company that owns everything. And BlackRock owns 5 to 10% of AT&T, 5 to 10% of Verizon, and 5 to 10% of T-Mobile. It's not controlling interest, but it's 5% of a company's stock is big. You get to make decisions that affect that company. And now Vanguard, the other big venture capitalist firm like BlackRock, they own 5 to 10% of Verizon, 5 to 10% of AT&T, 5 to 10% of T-Mobile. And so what happens? So now let's just say the same people own all 3 companies. So is it really 3 companies or is it 1 company with 3 brands? Like Procter & Gamble, right? You go to the grocery store and you see laundry detergent on a shelf and you see 50 different kinds of laundry detergent on the shelf. But look at the label. Oh, Procter & Gamble, Procter & Gamble. Oh, that one's Procter & Gamble, or it's Johnson & Johnson. One or the other 2. Johnson Wax, Johnson & Johnson, whatever they call it now, and Procter & Gamble. You got 50 different kinds of detergent. It's 2 companies. And so you're all talking in the chat about all the monopolies and just adding on to what I say. But with the phone companies, so let's just say BlackRock and Vanguard own 20% of all 3 of the phone companies. They may not have controlling interest, but what happens if Vanguard, BlackRock decide we're dumping T-Mobile stock tomorrow? That stock is going to go into a tailspin and it's going to sink the company. So now these people have real power with that company. So now what happens? They own all 3 companies. So what if the company wants to compete with each other? What if T-Mobile comes up with something that's so outlandish and so good that it would sink the other 2 companies? You don't think the CEO of T-Mobile is getting a call from Larry Fink and the CEO of Vanguard saying, no, you can't do that. If you do that, we're going to dump all your stock and we're going to sink your company. And then when your company goes under, we're going to buy up all the shares at 1/10 of the value that they are today. And we're just going to take the whole company over on you. You think the CEO of T-Mobile is going to do what he wants to do, or you think the CEO of T-Mobile is going to do what he's told by Larry Fink and the CEO of Vanguard? Because they're the ones that can sink his company with 1 phone call. And so that's why all 3 of the cell phone companies have the same prices, the same freaking phones, the same shitty service, the same customer service people from India. Everything is the same. There's no competition. Because if one of these companies sinks, or if one of these companies does something better than the other 2, the other 2 are going to go down. And the people that own all 3, yeah, they might make money from this one, but they're going to lose money over here from these 2, and they're actually going to lose money. So there's no competition, there's no innovation, there's no improvement, and there's no like T-Mobile's better. That's like saying that's like deciding whether the Cleveland Browns or the Dallas Cowboys are the best football team. They both suck. Like there's no difference. Like who cares? Nobody's watching that game. And you've got the same 3 phone companies with a different logo, but they all suck. And you can get mad. You can get on their customer service and you can tell the guy from India, well, if you don't fix my problem, I'm going to go to AT&T. And he's like, well, I'm sorry to understand that you will go to a new company, but well, rest assured that we assuredly want you to be assured to be a good customer. And I will do everything assuredly possible to assuredly make you a customer. But if you do not, then he don't give a shit. Ranjit don't care. He's making 20 cents a day to answer your phone calls and then, go take a bath in the Ganges River or whatever when he's done at the end of the day. And it's like, these people don't care. Even if you had an American customer service answering your call, they don't care about you either, but at least they speak English. So that would be a step up. I'm wondering, like, when they switch to AI answering customer service calls, are they going to, before you leave Blue Sky, I want to point out, because this, we just talk and talk and talk the whole time about the cars and stuff. Blue Sky, I got to give her a shout out because she's the first official member of this YouTube channel. I saw that the other day. So thank you for that. That's really awesome. So that means I got to start doing the members only chats and all that stuff. Even if there's one member, I said I'd do it. So we'll figure that out. We'll have a good time. Maybe we can do a Zoom meeting or something like that and just have fun and figure out what we're going to do from there. But what I was saying before still applies. If I'm going to do members only live chats, then whatever happens in the members only live chat will stay in the members only live chat, just like Vegas. And but I was going to do a whole nother I was going to do more plugs and more stuff about all that stuff, but we talked a lot about the used car search, and I hope I gave you some good info during that. Just, because you guys helped me. You sent me a couple good links for some cars, and the one guy who sent the link, he sent another one, Timothy, mid-90s Acura. So I'll check that out when we're done here. And as long as I got a couple of cars to go look at, I won't be fixated on that Fiat that I drove today, even though I liked it, even though I'm okay with the salvage title. And every used car you buy for the $5,000-$6,000 range is going to have problems, guaranteed. Nobody's going to get rid of a car unless they have problems with it. If you own an old car and you have no problems with it, why would you get rid of it? So I get it. I would never get rid of an old car if it was a good one. Even if I got a new car, I'd keep the old one just to have another car. The only reason I'm ever getting rid of a car is because, well, maybe I need money and I had 3 cars and I got rid of one because I needed some money. But other than that, I had no reason to get rid of it. But yeah, we've been going 2 hours, 37 minutes, and I'm cool with that. But I definitely got to get something to drink. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Blue Sky for that. And so I'll probably do another random live stream. Like, I don't know when. My guess would be Sunday, maybe. I don't know. It's whenever instead of doing a video where I record some stuff and then just put it in a rotation to have it show up on YouTube whenever, I'm just gonna do it live instead. Kind of like I did earlier this week. Because I'm not editing those phone videos, and I had like 5 or 6 of them queued up, and I ended up just deleting them. I'm not even going to push them live or do the work that I got to do, because there's really nothing that I talked about in any of them there might have been some funny stories or whatever, but not really. And I just don't even care. I'm just going to start doing things a little different on the channel, which is fine. It'll hurt my ad revenue for a bit, but I don't care. That's not why I do this. So at the end of the day, I just, I always play the long game, and I just think I'll make some changes here that'll be better in the long run. And so now that I have an internet connection that can support the live streaming, and it doesn't really seem to have too many problems, and AT&T just came by putting up a bunch of things on our driveways saying that they're going to put a fiber optic line down this street within the next couple of months. So I might be able to get a terabyte up and down connection speed for the same price I'm paying for what I'm getting right now. And that would be crazy. That speed would be phenomenal. That would be faster than my computer can even handle, probably. So between now and then, I've got a bunch of gear queued up to start filming my bicycling stuff that I want to film. and get more in depth with that. And I've got a bunch of other topics that I want to dig deeper into. And like, so when I do put up a regular video, I want to do less but more, so that the videos are better, but I might only put one up once or twice, once a week, maybe less. And I'll leave them open to channel members. When I start doing that, I'll just leave them available to the channel members only until I get the next video up. And then I'll make that video members only and open the previous one up to everybody. And I'll come up with some sort of rotation out of that. But be patient. I did figure out a lot of things this week with the memberships. I set up a Discord server so that we can all have like a private chat room where we can all just like message board chat to each other 24/7, members only. I got that figured out. I don't know all the things. I did figure out how to do the custom emojis, the custom badges. Like you see, Blue Sky has a little star next to her name. I can customize all those. They're just tiny little icons, so I can't put a huge amount of detail into that, but I can make them like specific for this channel and all the cool stuff like that. I figured out how to do a lot of that stuff. It's not hard. I just had to sometimes just navigating the Google interface and trying to figure out what's what is complicated and hard to find things. So I did some of that this week, and I'm making forward progress. But I wasn't even planning on doing this channel membership thing, so that's kind of a monkey wrench in my, kind of threw it was like a curveball in my, but I think it's a good curveball because it's just kind of prompting me to do things a little bit differently moving ahead. Not because I'm trying to get a bunch of channel members, but just because it was like a catalyst that made me sit back and go, you could do things a little different. And especially when I get a car, which could be, I'm going to say, I don't want to go another week without a car, but the sooner the better. But I also don't want to get screwed. And with that, thank you all for popping in. I'm going to say peace out for now, but just watch out. I mean, I don't know. Y'all get the notifications, or some of you do. I may just put up a random live stream here on maybe Sunday, Tuesday. I don't know. Sometime between now and Thursday, I know I'm going to hit that button and do it. Even if nobody shows up, I'm just going to talk like I would normally do in a video, and you could just watch the replay. That's cool too. So with that, I'm going to go get something to drink, and peace out. Hope y'all have a good one.